Hi ho, Silver, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And Jacob Wile too.
And welcome to the Stranger Things Season 3 Spoilercast. I have no idea why I said hi ho, Silver. It just kind of came to me in the moment. All right, guys. Got a lot to get into here. Of course, Stranger Things Season 3 dropped on Netflix on the 4th of July, very appropriately. And it being a kind of a big deal. Maybe I would dare I say Netflix's golden goose right about now. We're going to break it down episode by episode. We're going to go into full spoilers ahead for this thing. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go round table and start out with, instead of giving expectations for the season, instead of that, why don't you guys kind of just recap your feelings on the first two seasons, just kind of as a whole as quick as you can, and then jump into your thoughts on this one. So let's start with Jacob. Jacob, thoughts on the first two seasons, thoughts on this one?
I'll try and be as quick as I can. I was kind of late into the whole Stranger Things fandom. Like, I never watched it when it first came out, and I only started watching it once I saw the Super Bowl trailer for the second season. And I thought, okay, that looks interesting. So I decided to give it a shot. And obviously I loved it. And I loved it. I loved the concept. I loved all the characters and everything, and how it basically paid in homage to the 80s horror and stuff, and even brought some new things to the table. Season 2 increased that even more, being just as good as the first season. Season 3, however, I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite, but I think at least to me, it lives up to the previous. It lives up to the high bar the previous season set up. It's like it has just as much in the horror in the mysterious department, has lots of twists and turns. The effects are especially the effects are just as good as ever. I mean, if not better than they previously were. Like, they definitely go all out with some of the more CG, and it looks even like movie quality here. And then it's a good enough series to be able to binge watch in one go if you're able to. A lot of fun.
All right. I've always viewed Stranger Things more as like long movies than I have a full-blown TV show, and I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I just think it's a very theatrical show, and
they're basically 8-hour-long movies.
Exactly, and I feel like that's why they brand them as like Stranger Things 2, Stranger Things 3, instead of Stranger Things Season 2, Stranger Things Season 3. But suffice to say, I think seasons 1 and 2 are very good. Season 1, I got to admit, I have to go back and rewatch that one, because I don't think I have given that one a rewatch since it first aired way back when. So I really do need to go back and explore season 1. But I can safely say I enjoyed season 2 a lot. I love season 2, especially Sean Astin as Bob. I thought Bob was probably the best single character of the show's run, at least as far as I'm concerned, with just how much enjoyment he brought to the show, how much meaning his death had to the overall story. I love season 2 for that reason. And of course, season 2, we get a lot of development with the characters. The characters feel, like they're growing up. They're getting older. There's a lot of separation there. We introduce some good new characters, and Hopper is better than ever. And then we get to season 3. And guys, I gotta tell you, season 3 is interesting because I really like the first couple episodes of season 3. I love all the teen drama stuff in season 3 in the early goings. I love if season 2 was the characters getting older, this is the characters like fully maturing, like definitively, like they are not kids anymore by the time we hit season 3. But then I got to tell you guys, once the mystery starts to kind of come into play with this season, and people start getting a little scattered, and we have all these different plot lines going on for a few episodes. Guys, it's not that I wasn't enjoying myself with the season. It just felt like it was a little bit a stretch of episodes. I want to say like maybe episodes 5 and 6 or 4, 5 and 6. I'm not saying they're bad episodes at all. I'm just saying a little, like, they definitely feel reminiscent of, like, they definitely feel like they follow a formula at this point. However, big asterisks here. Once we get to episode 7, fantastic. And then once we get to episode 8, I mean, holy shit. I mean, Jesus, that is like,
that episode's like an hour and 20 minutes. That itself is a movie, pretty much.
I mean, that very much could be the Stranger Things movie if they had the cliffhanger of season 3 be episode 7, and then it's like, tune in next summer for Stranger Things, the Battle of Starcourt. Yeah. I mean, that could very much be the movie. I mean, and like you said, Jacob, all the CG is very much movie quality for sure. So yeah, like I said, I wasn't in love with this season all the way through. I did enjoy myself watching it, but there were a couple spans of episodes where I'm like, all right, this just feels like very exposition heavy, and they're just kind of like, there's a lot of moving parts to it. But it all ties together beautifully. I love the mall setting. It makes the season really stand out. I think the creature is easily the most scary and most well-designed of the creatures we've had so far. So yeah, there's a lot to like here. Oh, and of course, I mean, David Harbour just absolutely kills it. Like, David Harbour is easily the show's MVP if we haven't already known that. All right, Dragon.
All right. Well, season 1 of Stranger Things, for me, it really gets good with the last 2 episodes where everyone's kind of on the same page, and that's kind of where I was always kind of most interested with Stranger Things. Not that it didn't grab me already, because you basically, in terms of rewatchability, things really, I don't know, it's just really, I appreciate the world of Stranger Things, and I love our characters, and again, that's the frustrating thing of season 1, where it's like, oh man, why can't they all just get on the same page until those last 2 episodes? And by the time you get to season 2, it's pretty much starting from that, kind of last 2 episodes place, like 7 and 8 of season 1. That's pretty much kind of the tone of season 2 from the get-go. Season 2 is a lot of aftermath. And, of course, season 2 has the Andrew Stanton episodes, which really kind of jump out to me, which I really do love. That's the one where Hopper is kind of stuck underground for the episode. Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Anyway, so basically, Stranger Things did grab me, and again, I think it's progressively gotten better. Then we get to season 3, and I feel each season, looking at them getting to season 3, each season seems to me to be getting more ambitious than the last. I mean, again, season 1 stakes the claim. Season 2, again, it's tying up the loose ends of like, okay, where is 11? Let's go. Let's bring back 11. Let's kind of have the reunion piece going on there, and of course, like where's Barbara? All that sort of stuff. Like, we're kind of, where's Barb, I should say. We're looking into a few of those loose ends. And season 3 is kind of the big question of what's next. Now that you literally run out of story with 2, what's next? Like, it's kind of like stake your claim again for a series. Like, can you go on beyond like kind of like the obsession that was season 1 and kind of satiating that with season 2? And basically, this season, it didn't. Sorry. I really do like season 3. I do. I think I don't know if everyone's of the same mindset. I've heard a lot of people kind of differing, because they're not crazy about how the season's kind of broken down, how it's kind of edited. I really was a fan of it. I really was. I love how our stories collide, how they kind of build upon each other, how they're kind of they're kind of it builds upon itself in the right ways, I guess is the way to put it. We're really reveling in the 80s flair most, and indulging, after we've built up all this credibility. That's what this season feels like. If I had just kind of like a blanket statement for it, I feel we're just like we're taking advantage. Okay, we've told our story, and we've kind of built up the credibility. We've kind of inserted, the 80s so far. We've kind of paid off a lot of our story here, and we're picking up where we left off, and just kind of reveling in it. I guess that's the best way of putting it. So There's this season specifically. There's definitely an undercurrent of pro-America and patriotism of the '80s, which could definitely complement the Fourth of July holiday setting this go around. And again, might be the most. I'll go as far as this. I think season 3 might be the most strategic season yet, and I really did appreciate that. So a lot of good things. Season 3 ain't perfect, and we'll get into it, but I think on the whole, there's a lot of really great stuff in season.
Alrighty then. So I guess with that in mind, all we have to do is go through each episode. So like I said, folks, again, if it's not obvious now, I don't know what you're doing here. Full spoiler warning going ahead. We're going to dive right into the thick of things.
That's right, Donovan. We're talking to you. Donovan has chimed in saying, I love this season.
How you doing,
right.
Donovan? So let's start with chapter 1. Susie, do you copy? All right. So I really love this. Is just like Dragon. We've experienced this type of thing before, like, with Bates Motel and stuff like that. It is a syndrome of first episodes of seasons, and I'm not saying this in a bad way at all, but man, it just feels so good to be back with these characters again and establishing like a new status quo. And, they're all so much older, but they all still feel like the same characters. I mean, it's just like, it's not a great, like not a ton happens in this episode, but it's just really fun revisiting everyone.
Yeah, it's very economic in how we put our stories into play and establishing the status quo. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot really crammed in the first episode. Not in a way that feels overcrowded. It feels like, okay, we're one of my favorite bits. I love the transitions of I believe episode 1 specific. I love how we kind of transition between our stories. Like we're like walking down the street with Nancy at a certain point. Well, we go from the pharmacy or the department store to you kind of following Nancy on her way from the lunch run, that sort of stuff. It really, all little touches.
Happens like throughout the season. Honestly, it's a big strength of the editing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So some people have been harsh on the separation of story, but I say when they do stuff like that, I think it kind of warrants what they're going
to
for.
Say about that, Dragon, I think it's mixed. I think it's mixed results. Sometimes it plays out better than other times.
I'll go as far as to agree with you there. I mean, again, sometimes it really does pay off tremendously well, but at some point, all right, I'll go as far as that one. All right, so I mean, we have. It's kind of funny when you think about the progression of things here, just in terms of like how we're kind of telling the story. We kind of graduated from the whimsy of season 1, and we went to really kind of sci-fi territory in season 2. I'm not saying we didn't have sci-fi in the beginning, but season 1's a lot of whimsy, like the Demogorgon. It's very much the ET era of the '80s, and then we graduate.
I think the main movie that season 1 was riffing on was ET.
That's what I'm saying. As I'm saying, each season kind of obviously they kind of riff on sort of like a movie.
I think this season is definitely Day of the Dead.
Yeah, there's a lot of Day of the Dead, but also a lot of a little bit of Rocky IV, a little bit
of Jaws too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a little bit of I'm saying like sometimes
Jurassic Park even.
Sure. So season 1 you got kind of your whimsy of kind of your ET vibe. We have obviously there's some Ghostbusters. There's a little bit of just kind of like there's a horror element. There's kind of the sci-fi horror. This season, I mean, honestly, for me, what this season felt a little bit most like, aside from kind of your basically your Rocky IVs, your Red Dawns, which by the way came out in the year that again remember this season spans '84 and '85. Kind of checking with '84 at the start, which we'll break down in a second here, but. I love that we with the Russians, the Russian capacity of this season, we kind of broach Rocky IV, Red Dawn, just kind of the Cold War era, kind of spy games of it all, as well as when we get to the more horrific stuff, we get into a little bit of a John Carpenter vibe. I got a big John Carpenter vibe this season, especially when the Mind Flayer comes in.
It's amazing how they could kind of like reference all these things, like especially when the later sort of references like The Thing and all that.
Exactly. All right, so speaking of the Russians, perhaps we should start there because the season does kind of hinge on it.
To quote Indiana Jones.
Russians.
Russian. What if Cate Blanchett was in here as her Indiana Jones character?
I don't think it would fit.
Anyways. The Russians, like, I really love the slow progression of this storyline. I think it really fits.
I love this, but there's one problem with the Russians. Okay, the great stuff with the Russians is, again, it is complimenting the times, the time frame. Again, just sort of like, again, kind of that Cold War era, and reflecting just kind of your nameless Russian villains of the famous films of the '80s. They're Russians, therefore they must be the bad guy. And I love the idea that, and here's the problem. So again, the idea is beautiful, but I'm reading into the idea. They never say it clearly. The problem is, to me, it seems that they're, kind of classic Cold War. They're trying to kind of steal the idea of, like, trying to break the barrier to the upside down. They're trying to rip off the idea that we've seen in the previous 2 seasons, which of course is what the Cold War is all about. Again, it's about the one side trying to trump the other and trying to, like, kind of basically, again, the upside down key, or the barrier, the whole way of getting kind of ripping a hole into the upside down. They got wind of the lab, and they're trying to replicate that because they think maybe it'll help them win the war in the greater sense, or kind of trump the other side. That's great. Unfortunately, we don't speak to what their logic there is. I mean, again, I think the implication is strong enough. So it's not a major problem. I think it is kind of a problem where I'm of 2 minds about it, because again, like Russian bad guys in those '80s movies, many a time it's like, it doesn't really matter what they're doing. It's kind of like the age-old kind of umbrella statement of, they're trying to trump the U.S.
3 bad guys, for example.
That's what I'm saying. Like, obviously, our bad guys are more indicative of kind of those '80s types. So I can only infer the plot overall for them is kind of the same mindset.
I mean, heck, one of them is pretty much a Terminator.
So, well, more. I was thinking more kind of Ivan Drago, but sure.
No, I think the Terminator guy is definitely supposed to be the Terminator Dragon.
Right.
I mean, he's even called Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I and not to mention just the indestructible quality.
Fair enough.
I really don't think it's meant to be Ivan Drago. Just saying.
Well, I know it's not literally supposed to be Ivan. I'm trying of that. Forget it.
I mean, he's pretty much given the name Russian Terminator.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, like I said, to me, it's pretty clear that. Anyways, I'm sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves with this one. Anyways,
anyway,
yeah.
You see what I'm saying, though, right? It's kind of it's a little problematic. We never address like what their plan with the upside down is.
At least I mean, I was afraid to say something, but at least but you actually brought it up too. It's like they never clearly did say what their motivations were to opening the upside down.
Just like Dragon was saying, though, it's like kind of like in '80s movies, it doesn't really matter what the Russians are doing, anyways. They're just kind of I think that's kind of the vibe that we're getting.
I just wish they voiced it once, even in a vague sense of like, we're trying to trump the Americans, like just once. I don't know, but I think it would.
No, you're not wrong. I think just that I think there could have been a stronger connection to the Cold War.
I mean, and also to be fair, the mid-credit scene of season 8 kind of gives some implications.
I guess maybe we'll find out a little bit more in the future. Who knows? But again, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So let's check in with our guys. Let's kind of check in the main story points of our introductions here. So let's see, Mike and 11.
Say 3 inches.
Yep. So young love's definitely blooming.
Thinking the song and the making out, man, I have totally been there.
Of course, I just love the idea. David Harbour absolutely is the MVP of this season. If one thing can be said, MVP.
You have to watch this season because this season is all about Hopper being pissed off. You have to watch this season just thinking David Harbour is just, God damn it, Hellboy didn't work out at all.
I didn't really see it that way.
Not joking, Jacob, but still, it kind of just in the back of my mind, I added a little bit of enjoyment for me.
But I love Hopper. I love what we've done with Hopper as a character in progression because we have a lot of fun with Hopper here, a lot of great comedy with Hopper. We had a little bit of that in season 2. In season 1, primarily, we have kind of the tragedy of Hopper when we learn about how he lost his daughter and everything. Of course, too.
Season 2 gave us dancing Hopper.
That is true. Yes. Dancing Hopper, and the idea is just Hopper being completely freaking out. So again, good things have happened to Hopper for a change, and now he's just kind of like, and again, it's kind of a beautiful place to take his character. Where again, this is a man, this is a father who lost his daughter at a young age, to now kind of in some way has gotten his daughter back in the kind of the form of 11, and now it's kind of the thing that again, all the tragedies kind of distract him from again like the thoughts of what the future of fatherhood would hold for him. He's completely unprepared for it now. Like, oh God, how did the 3 inches rule again? He's just kind of. It's the fact that again, it's such an unusual again, kind of basis for a relationship, given, like, again, Mike and Eleven are very close for, obvious reasons. Again, kind of in humanizing Eleven and kind of bringing out kind of like humanity, kind of teaching her all these things. They become so inseparable that Hopper's like, oh, it's so unnatural, man. I don't know what I'm doing. And it's just freaking. Of course, the daughter has powers. So just close the door and everything on him. He's helpless. This is just hysterical, and of course, I mean, this will bridge into. I just love the fact that he confers with Joyce on parenting. Of course, his big foray into parenting. Of course, through the very determined Joyce Byers after all the events of season 1, and you're trying to save Will and everything, trying to convince him to help save Will and everything. So again, these two are kind of thick as thieves. They've got a grand history with each other.
Going to, he's like, I can't. He's like, I can't do it.
Also, I love the note that if I'm remembering correctly, I'm a little fuzzy on some of the specifics, but I want to say that Joyce is now running Bob's pharmacy, because I know Bob had a store. I don't know if it was I can't remember if Bob had like a novelty store or if it was a pharmacy. That's what I can't recall. But
I thought he worked at Radio Shack.
You know what? That's the thing. You might be right. The point being, I don't know. Maybe she kind of turned into something else, or maybe again, it's been at least 2 years. Again, we started in '84. Now we're in '85. So I mean,
she's still the department store she worked at from the very beginning.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, now it looks like she runs this place on her own, or well, for all we know. Again, I don't know. Again, I'm reading into a few things there. I'd like to think that maybe she turned wherever Bob worked into something else. But then again, it's a question of working versus owning a place. So I don't know.
I thought I saw Radio Shack actually closed.
Well, after the events of season 2, I can't blame them. Anyway, but yeah, so we have just the fact. The point being, whether it's the same place or not, she is still trying to move on from Bob's death. Of course, as dramatically impacted her from season 2, as it did all of us. Like, no, not Bob, anyone but Bob. No.
As we'll discuss later, this show seems to have something against people with the name.
Dude, I just realized that this season continues the tradition of killing people with the first name of B.
I was just about to say that.
Oh, sorry, Jacob. I think you and I had that revelation at the same time.
I was like,
in other words, the mystery of this season is who's B?
First Barb, then Bob, and now we guys. I'm not going to say just yet, just in case.
All right.
Let's see. So again, we have this great advice scene between Joyce and Hopper. She's giving great advice here, like, don't be a cop, don't yell at them, don't set down the parameters, just talk with them, be their friend, have a heart to heart, just create some barriers. And of course, it kind of helps them, give them some pointers, and this sets up the big letter device that will kind of pay off by the end of things here.
And we see how well that turns out.
Oh yeah.
As in not very well.
Nope. All right, so I guess we should. Hey guys, want to go to the mall?
Down to Starcourt.
This is one of the most impressive sets that I've seen on a project in some time, man. I mean, I love it. It looks so lived in.
Well, I mean, it looks. I mean, I would argue not lived in. I would argue like brand new and just everyone's taken to it, so it's become like home. I guess that much.
I heard it was actually filmed in a dying mall area, actually. Like I think they just dying and they converted it into the Starcourt or something. I don't really know for sure.
Interesting. Well, you're right. It is a great new set piece for the season. It feels like, again, it's kind of great to kind of delineate each season where, again, we usually have like kind of the holidays kind of separating things. But again, we really embrace kind of the kind of these totems of summer, specifically the 80s. But I mean, even beyond that, when you think summer, you think, hanging out at the mall, going to the movies, ice cream, precisely. Of course, going beyond that, then we have kind of our carnival stuff that we're going to set up a little bit later. The point being, we have all these great kind of summer jobs, specifically, with Steve and Scoops Ahoy. Oh my goodness, I love Scoops Ahoy,
and also the pool too.
That is true. Oh yeah, we're going to get there. But before we do, saying Scoops Ahoy, so I know one thing. I've seen marketing's having a field day with all the Stranger Things, as they usually do, like Eggos and so on and so forth. But Scoops Ahoy, though, I mean, I see like lunch boxes with Scoops Ahoy when I go to the store sometimes. It's great.
Is Scoops Ahoy a real thing, or is that made up for this show?
I'm pretty sure it's made up for the show, but then again, it could just be an obscure '80s chain. You know what? It seems too perfect to be an obscure '80s chain. It has to be like something they came up with, but it sounds like such an ingenious concept. Scoops Ahoy.
I mean, there's so many things made up for this show, but also so many things that are actually out of the '80s.
Yeah, like Nuco can't be a thing.
80s robot will tell you otherwise.
He will. That he will. But yeah, seriously. So Scoops Ahoy, we meet a new character. Meet Robin.
Robin was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I just love that Steve is in that little sailor outfit the whole season.
Yep.
I don't think we ever see him in any other clothes.
Nope.
But to be fair, this season pretty much takes place over like the course of like a weekend, like a couple days.
Yeah. This is
essentially the week of 4th of July, pretty much.
Yeah.
At least like a whole week instead of like a few days, maybe just like 6 days.
Yeah.
I think maybe a week at the absolute most. I think it might be closer to a weekend.
I mean, it could be. I think it's between 4 days to a week at least.
Mm-hmm.
Very least 4. Okay.
And a lot can happen in 4 days.
All right, so let's see. So the point is, Starcourt Mall again. Not only is just kind of embodying kind of what our characters are going through, but of course, all the evil in the town literally is within this mall. So again, it's kind of a great. We're accomplishing many things with this set piece. Again, it's just kind of everything you want. Again, like it's kind of we're not just going back to the old well, like the Joyce Byers house like we had in season 1, where we had the Christmas lights. Don't get me wrong, it was a great set, but I like how we're kind of. Basically the whole town was I want to say the whole town was kind of season 2. I mean, bear in mind the Department of Water and Power, I guess. Well, sorry, the Department of Energy was the main set piece. With all the bad stuff went down season 2. So that and Hopper's trailer. So those are like kind of the main set pieces of 2 and 3. We got the Starcourt Mall. Okay, anyways, just, before we get into like the nitty gritty of Starcourt Mall and the other episodes, let's talk about a character who's returned, kind of a fan favorite, I would say. A lot of people love this character. Everybody loves Dustin, it seems.
Oh yeah,
Dustin has an interesting storyline this season. Dragon, when you talk about being in the camp of like the separation of characters, this is kind of like my main issue is that I really like it really bums me out that we don't see more of Dustin in the main cast. To me, it almost kind of feels a bit sequel-itis-y of like, well, we really love Dustin and Steve together in season 2, so we're going to have a whole season of Dustin and Steve. It's just going to be all Dustin and Steve all the time. And I mean, that works and it doesn't. I mean, it's like, I don't know. I just like, that is like, generally speaking, I like what they do of cutting off the cast because it is a very big cast. But I miss that camaraderie.
I noticed something because it was all over the marketing, but it kind of like, given how the season ends, I did notice there's actually some clever foreshadow with Dustin's reception. Of course, 11 kind of pulls kind of a gag on Dustin to kind of get him there for the big surprise, like "Welcome home." Or she's activating basically all the remote control kind of robots and kind of toys where you have like R2D2 and a few other robots. They're kind of like leading the way, and of course he's thinking, "Oh God, it's the Upside Down. Something's going wrong." And in doing that, we it's 11 using her powers for a very mundane, very kind of simple task, which again is something she's kind of doing casually and with a lot of fun. Of course, by the end of things, it's going to be kind of opposite the case, and or it's kind of using her powers in a casual setting. So I think it's kind of a great little kind of mini kind of like button, kind of the beginning and end to the grand season of the whole. It's like a little thing with her. Anyways, the point being, 11 is probably the most acclimated to her powers she ever will be, or at least as we've seen her in this show. I think it's kind of important thing to set up in episode 1. Like, she's very comfortable. She learned all the ins and outs in season 2 how to use her powers, and now she's kind of like, she can use them with great ease, and she's all that stuff. So of course with Dustin we have I love that the big story for Dustin this season, of course, is convincing everybody the girlfriend is real. Of course, episode 1 is called Susie, do you copy? And of course, this is again kind of a bookend thing where it's going to be very pivotal to kind of saving the day at the end of the day.
I mean, I think it's a little bit predictable that it's like that she's going to be like a big plot point in the finale, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we were all expecting it, but the suspense is like, how is it going to play out? And is Susie going to be actually real, or is there going to be like a twist to her? Like, I don't know. So that was a good kind of season-long mystery.
What I really like about it here is that it's kind of the intersect of the kind of the teen stuff of where, again, Dustin's trying to have a long-term relationship via radio, which, by the way, I mean, I'm not saying like this from a personal experience because I wasn't there in the 80s, but it's kind of funny. On the Goldbergs, they've actually had long distance kind of radio stuff there too. It's just kind of funny.
At Moonrise Kingdom.
True, it's a better example, but you know what I mean. Just on the Goldbergs, they have
is actually a better example than Moonrise Kingdom because Moonrise Kingdom is the '60s. Goldbergs is the same time period, so give yourself a little more credit, Dragon.
Well, the point being, like the Goldbergs, they did like a lot of long distance relationship stuff. I mean, they had kind of long distance phone relationships as well. Again, it's kind of like I presume kind of a trope of the '80s as well when you had the long distance relationship, and again, like the long distance
in the '80s, folks.
The phone bills and kind of radio kind of distances, and that's kind of what we have with Dustin. So we have kind of the intersect of that teen stuff, trying to make a long distance relationship work and convince your friends you do have a girlfriend, and of course it's a huge plot point for him. His story really gets kicked off in doing this. Again, the whole like, do you copy Susie is kind of a double meaning because the second meaning, of course, is he overhears the Russian communique. Mm-hmm. Enter the Russians for the season through Dustin.
Russians.
Russians.
Can I point something out? Like, kind of a big issue with this season.
Go on.
Lucas has fuck all to do, man.
Well, maybe not.
He is kind of pointless.
I mean, he's in Mike's corner. He's trying to help. He helps him kind of iron out let me put it this way: Lucas, I think, does have some things to do, but it's not. They're not great things. I mean, I think he is kind of important to the Mike story. But I'm not crazy about most of the Mike story this season. So
I think we're on the same page with that.
I'm saying so again. I think he has a role, but not great.
We're laying out all the flags for these characters, but I'm just saying, like with Lucas, it's like it's like you said, Dragon. It's like he's more of an accessory to Mike's story than he is his own character this season. I mean, he really doesn't. It's like I never even really feel that much of an arc with him and Max because they're just kind of like constantly like getting mad at each other and then getting back together. And I don't even know if by the end of the season him and Max are supposed to be together. Still.
No, Tiki, they never broke up. They were still together. It's just she's just kind of like, well, she never officially broke up with him or anything. So they were together the whole time. They just like they're a little bit more like they get it. Where again, 11's new territory for her. Like that was an actual break. Well,
all right, gotcha.
Point being, let me ask you this: who do you think is this? Sounds like it's such a ridiculous small question. Who do you think is Mike's best friend? Because I always thought it was Lucas. My read on it since season 1 was that Lucas was his best friend. What do you think?
I always kind of thought it was Will, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I'm just kind of based on like the stuff they went through, like when Will and when Mike and Luke really had each other's throat in the first season, and I thought that was kind of like spoke to a deeper relationship.
As far as like the first through second season goes, I always thought it was like Mike and Will were best friends and Dustin and Lucas were best friends.
Yeah, no. That's kind of the vibe I got as well. Yeah.
And basically Mike because they're everybody's best friend, kind of though.
You raise.
I think Mike is kind of like the leader of the group. You know what I mean? He's the Billy character from It.
Well,
believe it or not, Finn was in both of those things.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And there's also a character named Billy here.
Well, I mean, that's a fair point because now you bring up. I do remember that, of course. He's really kind of compassionate towards Will in season 2 with the whole, with what happens to Will a lot in season 2. So
speaking of which, Will's pretty much purpose in this season was just like, the mind flayer's nearby.
No, Will's purpose in the season was he was the one who was still wanting to be a kid and kind of grasping onto childhood. I mean, I thought there was a lot going on with Will in that regard.
Basically, it was big stuff, but it was minimal. I think I'd go as far as to say that with Will. He had some important stuff, but it was just really, really minimal.
Yeah.
But those were pretty much his 2 most important roles. There's like, I want to be a kid, and the mind flayer's nearby.
Yep.
Okay, I will say, like, I was kind of mentioning with the been there, done that. I just didn't like how he randomly had a spidey sense with the mind flare. I just said that kind of fell. I wish we would have explain that a little more.
I'll admit, having it explained might have been kind of cool, but I mean, the fact that I like that he had that kind of spot, had that spider sense thing going on. That was kind of cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
I took it as like he still has some kind of connection to the upside down, and like he can sense when stuff from the upside down is near.
Because he was there the longest.
Sure.
All right, so let's talk about those crazy kids who fell in love in season 2. Let's talk about Jonathan and Nancy. What are they up to?
I mean, I got to be honest with you guys. These two continue to be the weakest part of the show for me, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, honestly. I'm sorry.
Man.
I don't know. I there's not really a ton for them. Like they have the subplot of investigating the rats, but that's really about it. I mean, at least, I will say I do like them better here than I like them in season 2. I think they do make a good pair. I just, I don't know. I've never been too crazy for them. Like, honestly, I wish we would have seen more of Nancy and Dustin because I feel like that was kind of a, sort of a jumping off point at the end of season 2 that we never really explored was that kind of bond.
That's a good point. I didn't quite think of that.
Yeah. I don't even think they share a scene together.
No, technically, when they're all together.
Well, when they're all together, yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying they never really have a moment.
You're right. So. Let's see. Well, I mean, what we have. Let's just check in with them. Let's plant the flag. So they have a job.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Dustin is Mike's best friend. She basically says that in that speech.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, fair point. All right.
I guess that's kind of missing out.
I'll just strike mine from the record. Okay.
Mine too.
All right. Okay. Anyway, so Jonathan and Nancy, so they have a job at the paper, which makes sense for me. Jonathan with the photos, and her with kind of the investigative bug. Yeah. Especially after meeting her, after meeting Murray in season 2, it makes sense.
And she keeps opening the door on him in the dark room.
So basically, Nancy's going through I'm pretty sure it was an 80s movie. She's going through kind of the working girl kind of phase. The old, like, she's trying to be taken seriously in the workplace. She's kind of going through that. And of course, she's kind of combating Jake Busey and is constantly calling her of Nancy Drew.
Oh, God.
Of course, Jake Busey kind of comes from 80s pedigree, the bad guy in the first Lethal Weapon with Gary Busey. So, it's kind of a little bit of pedigree of 80s royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, so let me talk about one of my least favorite things that was kind of brought in towards the end of season 2 that we still kind of keep on at the very beginning of this season. Still
stuff.
I'm sorry, the what?
The Mrs. Wheeler stuff.
Yeah, the Billy wife.
That's pretty much everyone's main complaint about the season is that it's not really necessary. B, it doesn't go anywhere. C, it's a little uncomfortable.
One, it really came out of nowhere at the end of season 2 because he's basically looking for the kids and he stops by the house and it's just a really out of left field scene. We're still keeping on with her. It just feels really wrong, and it makes me. Here's the thing: again, Mike's parents were fine. They didn't really kind of jump out at you, but it's just really weird when it seems. I mean, Mike's dad just seems to be like a decent guy, and she's just really, it seems like she's regretting her life choices right now. It's like, that's kind of dark, man. That's the thing, because they see it. Look, I'm not saying, look, he's the, it's kind of
they are basically terrible people. Well, I mean, no, I'm sorry, she is basically a terrible person.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't really have any feelings about Mike's dad one way or another, but he just seems like, seems like a decent guy. I don't know. Again, it doesn't really seem like he's worth walking out on a marriage with she has 3 children. That's what I'm saying. It's all really weird when it comes down to, all the, Mrs. Wheeler and all this Billy the lifeguard stuff just feels really weird. And the big Latin, sorry, unless you guys want to kind of riff on this anymore. I mean, the big ending of the episode. Yeah. Beginning of the episode, Billy, of course, is going to factor in a big time to this season where he is attacked by the Flayer at the mill, or at least attacked by something shadowy in the mill that will eventually become the Flayer. So,
all right, okay, guys. There's a lot of setting up in that episode, so I understand. Yeah. Let's try and pick up the pace on these next ones. Chapter 2, the Mall Rats.
I just want to get Kevin Smith's reaction to that one. I really do, but.
Okay,
Yes.
this is where we get that horrific scene with the rats, right?
Yes, this is where we get the icky rat possession.
Oh God, dude!
That was retch-worthy.
So let me talk about
Rick come to life.
So, I mean, this is where you get there's essentially such a Cronenberg it's kind of Cronenberg meets Carpenter vibe. That it's a lot like The Thing here, or it's the way these things look. Where basically the idea I saw it visually with this and eventually The Flare, is the way we kind of epitomize all that stuff. To me, it feels a lot like it's like they're all the rats. They blow up and they're turned inside out, and then they mold.
It's like The Thing.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So it's kind of like the upside down, inside out. You get it? So it's kind of the opposite of something. It's the upside down epitomized into a look which is inside out.
Yeah, this season is definitely. I mean, this series is not shy at being visceral, but this season definitely ups the ante when it comes to being visceral.
Hundreds of CG rats died to make this, season possible.
And like I said, not just the rats, but pretty much almost everything. Like this entire season is a lot more visceral than it was before.
That it is. Of course, the idea like these rats, they blow up, they turn inside out, and they turn into like this gelatinous, icky thing, and they basically go inside people and possess them. So like they're not dead, but they're kind of infused with this kind of hive mind, inside out kind of mind flayer thing.
All right, this is also where we get
As a wise man once said, that is sick and wrong.
This is also where we get Hopper putting the fear of God into Mike, right?
Well, that was okay. So here's the weird thing. I mean, it's fine, but it's like at the end of the first episode, we had him like basically start the talk with Mike. And we didn't get to see the talk for Phil. He's locking him in there really psychotically. Of course, basically he's trying again. David Harbour, wonderfully, he's just trying to have this restrained conversation, trying to put his feelings on the line there. And Mike is just taking shots at him just to impress the girl. I feel
his frustration in that moment, man. I really do. I just want to grab Mike and be like, Mike, you could make this whole situation so much better if you just listen to the man.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, Mike. No.
I mean, to be fair, Hopper's not exactly scot-free either in that whole thing.
No, he isn't.
In fact, he probably made the entire thing much worse.
He did. So then he kind of takes him out of there with the whole like, oh, your Nana's sick. So he takes him out of there and basically psychotically he's kind of like locking him in the door. He's just playing mind games with him, like, lock it. Unlock, and basically tell me you're going to sit there and shut up, and I'm going to tell you something. If you're lucky, you'll be able to date my daughter by the end of things. Now we check in.
Continue to allow you to date my daughter.
Exactly. So now we're kind of it's the day after, and basically, and this is where my biggest problem with the season is. I got to be honest, not with Hopper, but specifically with the actions of Hopper here. Where the problem is, I feel each season we kind of get better and better with how we kind of downplay kind of the tropes of things. And if we do a trope, we kind of play it along with the 80s. But in this case, this is the misunderstanding I'm not crazy about. The idea that, okay, 11, Mike is lying to 11 here. It's a small lie, but, he's kind of lying to her because Hopper put the fear of God into him. Mm-hmm. And the fact that this never properly gets cleared up, and it just feels like unnecessary. And this is like a rift that bothers me, where he kind of calls a rift between Mike and 11 just for the sake of, we want 11 to do stuff with Max, so we got to separate them. That's all. It just feels like really contrived.
I mean, Dragon, I agree with you for the reasons, but I will say I do like the chemistry that 11 and Max have, and it's nice to see those two characters interacting with each other. So that's a little bit of a payoff I have for that. Like,
I mean, honestly, the stuff Max brings up, I mean, those are some valid points, like the whole possessiveness.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So I
don't think we needed the forced
situation.
I don't think we needed the forced separation to get to that point, though. I mean, why can't just Max and 11 hang out with the gang? I don't know why you can say, hey, 11, let's get you out of here. Let's go to the mall, and then just kind of start from there. I don't know.
Well, it's just you need them to get away from the group to have girl talk. Basically, it's kind of a girls' day out sort of. Like, I don't necessarily think we need a riff to have a girls' day out, but I don't know.
Again, it's kind of needed to get from point A to point B, I suppose, but it just still feels like it's like the misunderstanding just feels like, okay, guys, we're doing so well here, aside from this whole weird Mrs. Wheeler thing. We do bits like this, just kind of raise an eyebrow. Like, guys, we're doing so well plotting and kind of in so many other places this season. We're doing stuff like this where it's like, okay, the forced misunderstanding. and it's never going to get cleared up right, and we're going to have to get Mike and the gang are going to have to look for a gift to apologize to 11 with. It's like, come on, guys, we can do better than this. Anyway, so however, what we do get, and again, while we do all that though, I do love Happy Hopper. We get "Don't Mess Around." We get that "Don't Mess Around with Jim" song. Just Happy Hopper is priceless. It's just we do a lot of comedy with
Happy
Hopper.
Hogan, man. We need Happy Hopper.
He's hopping mad with happiness. Oh, good. So again, it is. You take what you can get. And of course, Hopper's so over the moon. He's asking Joy out in kind of a pseudo dating. He's not calling it a date, but it's very clear that he has feelings. I've always kind of called he has feelings for Joyce. I think we've all kind of called that. And we're kind of finally doing something with it here. And Hopper bought a nice new shirt and everything. He's going to Enzo's.
PI shirt.
Yep. Of course, the whole fact he watches Magnum.
All the stuff with Hopper in this season, like infiltrating the Russians and everything, is like 100 times better than the actual Magnum PI remake.
Yep. So of course, at the end of the day, Hopper he goes through all this. He's making a genuine effort again. He's just he's very eager and over the moon. He's kind of in the Bob Newby position of, I'm going on a date with Joy Spires, hot dog.
Joy Spires.
Or she's going the Magnum PI route. All right, going on a date with Joy Spires. Yeah. Get some fancy wine.
Unfortunately, Joyce has other plans.
With magnets. She stood him up for magnets.
Effing magnets!
Yeah.
How do they work?
Magnets! Oh!
Magnets, how do they work? I appreciate that, Jacob.
Thank you.
Right, so of course the magnets do give us one of my favorite characters from Stranger Things, though. I love Scott Clark, man. I love that we didn't do him all.
To be honest with you, when they introduced him, I was thinking that he would be like a season-long love rival for Joyce, and I was kind of disappointed they didn't go down that route.
Here's the thing: I thought that initially too, but then it kind of occurred to me. I mean, it would have been going a Bates Motel route for sure, but it was the idea that again, this would have been a way to kind of give Will something to do if they went this route, though, because he would have had. She fell for Bob Newby, and now she's fallen for Will's science teacher. Of course, Will and the gang, they're into science. Of course, some a little bit kind of crossing a line there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so I don't know if that was the logic or anything. Remember, Scott Clark, he did have a girlfriend. At the end of the day, that was probably their logic for not doing that thing. Of course, honestly, they wanted you to do Hopper and Joyce at the end of the day too. It's probably the main reason.
Of course.
Point being, Scott. So Scott Clark, kind of very back. One, I love he has a very Back to the Future style kind of AC Transformer setup here. Like he has this model set, and he just has this demonstration with the.
Yes.
So essentially, the AC
Weird Al.
Ma Bologna.
Weird Al actually re-uploaded that song to his YouTube channel the day the season came out.
Well,
makes sense.
Weird Al's a Stranger Things fan. And actually, considering how he does like a lot of like retroactive cameos, like like he has cameos and stuff like dating back to the '80s and stuff like that. Like and stuff that takes place during the '80s.
He's in the Goldbergs.
It'd be kind of funny if they were to know Weird Al cameo in this.
Oh, dude, I'd love to get a Weird Al case. Like, honestly, Weird Al would be one of those people. I could see this show casting as like a season long, like kind of like in the Carrie Elways, Sean Astin pool of iconic '80s stars that we're gonna give a major role to.
I mean, that'd be kind of fun. I'd love to see Weird Al in this, even a cameo.
Even a cameo, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, because like I said, he looks like he hasn't aged a day since he was in the '80s.
The only thing that changes with Al sometimes is the hair, but that's about it.
But even then, like if they just redo his hair, he looks exactly like he did like 30 or 40 years ago.
The main thing is
mind blowing about Weird Al.
Go on.
Monkey's mother actually went to college with him.
Nice.
And she remembers, she tells me all the time, she remembers, oh yeah, I remember when Al Yankovic used to do the radio show. But anyways, she wasn't very familiar with him, but she went to college with him at the same time. She remembers his radio show.
That's what they got to do with him. They got to make him like a radio DJ.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Season 4, that's what they got to do.
You know, since they're getting more ambitious with the CG, what if they did like the MCU style, like de-aging CG and made him look like 80s Weird Al with like the glasses and the mustache and everything?
Anyway, so back on point. So the idea is they do this AC transformer thing with Joyce, and the idea is like he demonstrates why the magnets are losing their magnetism. And again, this is kind of a here's the thing. This is a really cool plot device, but I got to be honest. There's not a there is payoff, but it just feels. I think this is the kind of payoff that's going to go over a lot of people's heads, though. This is like the idea. Okay, so the magnets. I think if I'm remembering correctly, it's a deep pull from I want to say I forget if it was the first or second season, but the idea is like when the upside down when a tear opens when tear opens in the upside down, when they activate the machine that kind of opened the tear in the first place, that's when the magnets kind of did their thing. I believe that's the logic, and that's things. So the idea is okay. So people messing with the upside, and that's why the magnets aren't working. So the point is, I think it's there, and I think it's a cool idea. It's a cool device showing that something goes wrong. But I think kind of getting from point A to point B on that regard, like okay, so her magnets aren't working, and now she's convinced something's going on. It's kind of a hard sell, but it's cool nonetheless. I'm a little iffy on that one, but it's. Of course, we have this great line by Scott Clark too. Like once you open curiosity's door, anything is possible. So let's talk Steve and Dustin reunited, and it feels so good.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, guys, I think if anything, like, what do you guys think of the whole like? I don't think I want to make something clear. All the Steve and Dustin stuff this season is great. I do like the characters that they're paired with as well. I really like Robin. I love Erica's expanded role. We'll get into that.
You and I might have some fighting words on that one.
I had a feeling about that, Dragon. I think it kind of comes down to a sense of humor taste thing with that. But I don't know. I just think it is a bummer that once he meets up with Steve here, he's basically never going to leave the mall for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But it is good, and they do have a great camaraderie with each other. That great bit where, he just like rushes out and they do a lightsaber bit. It is really
How many children are you friends with? It is quite great, and I just love. Again, it's just they have such a great sense of camaraderie. Honestly, it's just the simplicity, and I'd watch like a spin-off show with these two because I just love the idea that Dustin comes into the fray and he says, "Hey, Steve, you want to go on another mission to save America from the Russians?" Do I? It's pretty much how it goes. It's like, it's pretty much how it goes. It's a lot of fun. It's just, okay. Let's just save America. It's the '80s. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Also, of course, he calls him Henderson. I'm sure they made this gag in season 2, but I can't recall. It's like it's Harry and the Henderson. Get it?
Yeah, maybe.
Harrington and the Henderson.
Or again, like his nickname is Steve the Harrington, so Harry and Henderson. No. Maybe a stretch. You're not wrong, but anyway. Of course, Robin ultimately just kind of summarize things a little bit here. So again, Robin, she wants in on the whole conspiracy action. Where again, they're trying to kind of decipher the radio, the recording of the Russians.
All out of boredom.
Yep, and again, she proves herself very clever. She actually deciphers the message, kind of the Russian call sign translated in English, and also they pick up the biggest detail of all, the carousel, which means the Russians. It's very mall.
It was actually, I think it was Steve. It was actually Steve that picked out the whole carousel thing.
That is true. That was him. Yeah. Okay, so I want to meet one of my favorite additions to this. One of my favorites, kind of like side additions to the season. We're just gonna jump to another part of it here. Mrs. Driscoll, man, I love Mrs. Driscoll.
I didn't really have a huge reaction to her. I mean, she's fine. I wouldn't say I loved her.
Well, I mean, I really, let me put it this way. I mean, I really enjoyed her. I think things will obviously go really horrific with her, but I gotta tell you, her introductions. Oh man, that Mrs. Driscoll seems like such a nice lady. She's really this pleasant old lady who's just like, oh yeah, I caught this weird rat in my basement. She's, I'm happy to have the company. She's offering drinks and everything. Oh, she's just really pleasant. I don't know why.
Fair enough.
Not a lot. Okay, look, she's not a lot of substance there, but I mean, again, there aren't really many new additions aside from our Russians and I guess the mayors. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean that is true. I think this season, like, there's not like a.
I mean, de facto, Robin's probably the best. I mean,
there's not like a big fan favorite character like Bob entering the fray in season 3.
The closest thing we have would probably be Robin. I mean, she works too. I mean, basically, de facto, she's probably the.
I think Robin is she's like a more down to earth, like, I don't even think that she's not a more down to earth Bob because she's nothing like Bob, but
and at least spoiler, she doesn't die.
I mean, okay, in terms of maybe a fan favorite, I'm just guessing here if this would be a fan favorite. This character seems to me like she'd be a fan favorite. Maybe Susie.
Well, I mean, if there was more for her to do in this season, then yeah, but we'll get into that.
You're right. Okay, anyway, so what's the point? Mr. Scott,
I think what we do with Susie, that ultimate, the ultimate payoff to her might be the most controversial thing of the whole season, honestly.
We'll get there. Anyway, so Jonathan, just the idea. So again, Nancy and Jonathan, they basically there was like a call at the office where again Nancy's being overlooked, kind of called Nancy Drew, very poor her, and I don't mean that's facetiously. I mean I feel bad for her, and she gets a call, and basically she's following up on kind of what could potentially be a crank call, where basically these hyper rats are eating fertilizer, and just kind of gnawing through the bag, and she caught one. She seems really rabid, really obviously really averse to photosensitivity. And Jonathan's being very supportive of Nancy going after this, despite the fact, again, honestly, Jonathan just wants to keep his job at the paper. That's his main goal for this. I just don't want to get fired, man. I got a job with photography. Come on, Nancy, let's not pursue this. But again, he's going.
I can relate. I can totally relate.
Kind of the Howard Hamlin kind of line of thinking. I just want to keep the lights spinning. I just want to, keep the, I just want to keep the lights on. That's all. Or I guess in his case, he wants to keep the lights off. Anyway, we also briefly introduce the Carrie Elway character.
Yes.
Mary Klein. It's this corrupt, sleazy mayor. Very Jaws-esque.
On the 4th of July.
He's very Jaws. He's very much like the mayor from Jaws.
Oh, yeah. That's obviously like the pool here.
Yeah. Of course, Max and 11, they have a fun day at the mall. You have a fashion montage because it's the 80s. Why not? We have some mind pranks where she's going to blow up kind of like smoothies or stuff. And,
what do you guys think of Eleven's new look? I rather like it.
I also really like it. Yeah.
I honestly think it's probably my favorite look that Eleven's had because she's a character that kind of evolves in look every season. I think this might be the best look she's had.
Bear in mind, I am a sucker for suspenders, so maybe that's.
Dare I say the suspenders are maybe a little bit of a Mork and Mindy call?
They were rainbow, absolutely, but I could just be suspenders, man.
Right. All right, fair enough.
Okay, last big one. Okay, so Billy. Billy, possessed by a flare. We have this really horrific sequence where he's at the pool next day. Of course, being possessed by the flare, you're really sensitive to sunlight, and he's just kind of blistering, and he's just trying to cool off. And it just feels really uncomfortable and really creepy. Where it's just, oh god, he's just all this body horror again. He looks like he's this close to killing Mrs. Wheeler, like possessing her, and he doesn't. And then we end up, of course, he ends up actually kidnapping Heather.
It's actually kind of surprising that Mrs. Wheeler wasn't flayed.
Yeah. I mean, she had it coming. I mean, that's the thing too. Yeah, remember, actually, she's kind of the reason he got flayed in the first place. Because remember, she kind of set up this potential meetup at her house. Well, not at her house, but she was going to meet him at some place, and she kind of turned him down because she turned him down.
He's the one who invited her, actually.
Well, I mean, you're right, but I'm saying she was kind of more amenable to it in the first place. So, but she was contemplating, and she ended up not going, which thank goodness. But anyway. Point being, the other lifeguard was not so lucky, and she was kidnapped really horrifically. And again, it's really, imagine if you're in that girl's perspective, you just wake up with duct tape on your mouth in front of this really, again, remember, before this guy was flayed, he was a psychopath already. Billy has problems. Billy, again, but the actor's main sense of reference for this character is Jack from The Shining. That was season 2, and now this guy, he's possessed, and he's even more horrifying. It's going to be over quickly. It's like, oh, God. And then, of course,
try not to move.
Of course, we begin with the rats and we end with the rats.
Oh yeah.
All right. All right, that brings us to episode 3. Episode 3, The Case of the Missing Lifeguard. So we're going to follow up on we have basically kind of a little Nancy Drew mystery in essence on this one with 11 and Max, kind of find out what happened to Heather after they're kind of playing. Basically, we start with a sleepover with Max and 11. And again, feels a little. Again, we have this to me is again feeding the whole the contrived element of these first couple episodes here, where again it's like they're eavesdropping on the boys, and we just have to do a gross out gag because we need to.
That might have been my least favorite moment of the whole season, honestly. I mean, if it was just Mike belching, sure, whatever. I'm not a fan of it, but yeah. But then the Lucas fart that was way too far, man. That was way too far.
But I mean, it's just the sense of again, we have the whole she's like another species, and it's like, come on, guys, why can't we just have an honest conversation where we have all the stuff we had earlier, which is trying to patch things up with 11? Why can't we voice that? Why do we have to chime in at just the wrong moment to keep the plot going in its current course? I mean, come on, guys.
It just didn't. It just almost felt kind of like out of place and unnatural in a way. It's like these guys normally wouldn't talk like that.
Yeah, it just feels like we need to keep 11 on a current story path, and it feels a little transparent.
I mean, yes, they're teenagers, and teenagers are dumb, but
yeah. Again, I'm not saying characters don't need to be perfect, but by the same token, I mean, a little honesty wouldn't hurt in place. Mm-hmm. But again, that's the main gripe I have in the season, if I'm being frank. Just kind of the sort of
not a big deal. I just kind of think it's like maybe a little too much of a coincidence that she, just happens to land on Billy and, sees the Billy stuff. It's a little convenient.
Well, remember, she did spin it twice, though. It wasn't like the first landing. She spun on Mr. Wheeler, which would have been really interesting. What does that guy do on this?
I wanted to see Mr. Wheeler, man.
Yeah, I wonder what that guy. Again, because he's just such kind of an enigma of a guy. Like he's afraid of Ferris wheels. That's all we got for the guy. Really. That's all we know about him.
She might have just seen him knocked out on the couch or something.
Yeah, it's a thing. He just seems to be he's kind of like the Sid's dad to an extent. He's kind of like sleeping on the couch watching commercials. All right, so no, but all serious. So again, this is to me is a far better idea. Like the whole spin the ball in terms of who you gonna check in on. That idea with the eavesdropping, I liked a lot better. Just let's just check in on Mike and just see at the wrong time, that whole thing. So in doing so, this is a clever way of getting us to the Billy plot though. Okay, this is how we're gonna kick off the story here, where Billy's doing something really horrible, and we're gonna investigate and find kind of this missing lifeguard. Like that, all that I thought was kind of good in terms of what the episode's about.
Mm.
Let's see. Okay, Will. Here's where we do a lot of the Will stuff. So the idea, Mike and Mike and Lucas, they're kind of having the existential romance problems here. He's just trying to kind of get his buddy through the rough patch with 11. Why don't you just patch things up? And of course, while they're focused on that, Will, of course, Dustin in the room. Will's doubling down. Come on, guys! D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. Let's do it.
It's not just Dungeons and Dragons. Like I said, it's just, the main point of the Will stuff is that he is the character that is still innocent in all this, and not to mention being in the Upside Down. Kind of, he basically lost out on his childhood. You know what I mean? It's like all these characters are older now, but he's really the only one. It's almost kind of like the snap, you know what I mean? It's like,
no, you're right. I don't mean that in a negative way, Tim. I'm just saying he's just really winning the road.
Well, I know. I'm just saying I really enjoyed this element of Will's character.
Yeah, and I did feel it's really tragic what happens to Will here. The destruction of Castle Byre is really sad.
Uh-huh.
Think about that.
He's destroying his own childhood.
Uh-huh.
Which is ironic, which is strangely ironically one of the least mature things you can do.
Yeah, it's the symbol. Not only that, it's a symbol of it's a symbol of his friendship that saved him in season 1. Like him hiding out in the Upside Down, him hiding out in kind of the Castle Byre equivalent. That's what saved his bacon.
Mm-hmm.
It's really again, it's really kind of sad to see him destroy that. Again, it's kind of showing really going really far from where we were in season 1 with these characters in a visual way. It's really good.
This is a good season for. Of course, we get the cabin destroyed later on in the season, and Dragon, as you know, this is one of the things for me narratively is I really like when we get these set pieces in shows treated as characters and given deaths.
Yeah,
one of my favorite examples of that is the RV in Breaking Bad.
Oh God! Don't make me cry. Yeah.
So
let's see. Okay, Joyce. So we have Joyce and her crazy magnets.
Oh my god!
No, I'm
First,
kidding.
Christmas lights.
Joyce Byers is always something. It's like, it's
What was it
pictures.
in season 2? Did she have a thing in season 2?
He did. In season 2, it was Will's drawing. She hung up all the
Oh yeah,
drawings.
that's right. Yeah. All the
Tunnels.
drawings all over the house. Yeah, of course.
Yep. Oh, Joyce Butler. She's always up to something, decorating something. It's always. Okay, so this is really funny. So she comes, in all seriousness, she comes by with the magnets here to Hopper, who's just been in the earlier sleepover scene. By the way, we had this scene where we had drunk Hopper, and this is a priceless scene. This is David Harbour at his finest here. Again, David Harbour is like 3 inches, and of course he's just coming at the wrong time here without realizing. Okay, it's just the girls' sleepover here. He's like, he's just crashed into the room like it's like a bull in a china shop here. It's like. Oh, it's just caught completely off guard. He's going in with one mind, so I'm gonna put the fear of God into that kid.
It's like, oh, does her mom know?
I just love this. So yeah, he's just completely caught off guard. And then we have
the first time that Ella's had like a girl sleepover, so it's just like, oh well, that's good, but not what I was expecting.
Again, I love it. He's just so happy with this too. And then of course we have this beautiful image of happy lounging Hopper. Where it's just like goes to the almost the suit up scene, like he goes to it's like a little almost like a mini montage where he goes to the recliner with the close up and everything. Just reclines back, he kicks his shoes off. It's like okay, good. It's a good day. He had that big smile again. The mustache just the wonderful thing about the mustaches is he had facial hair throughout all the seasons, but I mean the mustache this season it just accentuates the smile of Hopper so much. It's wonderful.
I kind of want to have a Hopper mustache.
Yeah.
I'm kind of contemplating being Hopper for Halloween if I grew out the mustache and got the Magnum PI shirt.
I mean, I can already have a mustache going, so
cards.
I already have a mustache going. I mean, I'm not allowed to have a beard for my work, so I'm growing out my mustache and sideburns.
Oh man, I would be bummed out to not have a beard for work.
Well, worst case scenario, you could always be Peter.
I'm sorry, who?
Deadpool 2, Peter, with the mustache and everything.
Oh, God.
Is that like a name tag? Hello, my name is Peter.
Again, I don't know.
Yeah.
Peter, I'd have to wear an I Am Peter shirt, and then everyone would assume I was Spider-Man.
No, just have a name tag. Hello, my name is Peter.
Yeah, it's a little deep. I mean, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Peter, but...
Everybody loves Peter.
Anyway.
He's the Bob of Deadpool 2.
Oh, he absolutely is.
In so many ways. I mean, yeah. Anyway. So, okay, getting back. Okay, anyway, so the point is like Hopper, he kind of got into a drunken stupor. He's just kind of like now he's had like a little moment of happiness, and that last night, and of course, he's waking up with a hangover and everything. And Joyce comes by with the crazy magnets, and he's just like, oh, look who decided to show up. And I love that it's not this time around, 3 seasons in. I love that it's not a point of like him believing in what Joy's saying, even though the magnet thing seems really off. I love it's like. It's not that he doubts her. It's the fact that it's like, you know what? It's just personal at this point. You stood me up. I don't want to help you out this time.
Right.
But what's really great about their dynamic and kind of what this episode kind of skirts around, what it really gets into, I believe it kind of gets in here too with when he's kind of behind the curtain in the episode where he has this really great conversation about moving on. He just wants this place to be safer. I always love that scene where he says, I want you to feel safe, so you don't have to essentially, so you don't have to move. I thought that was a beautiful scene, kind of like monologue for him to have there. We're just like, because again, his whole purpose in this series has been to kind of make her feel safe, reunited with her child again, live vicariously through her, and kind of healing himself in a sense. And in the grander scope, just again, like as a chief of police, he wants to make people feel safe, even if it compromises kind of the law in certain places. He wants to make people feel safe. The crossover we need, Tiki. We need Hopper to meet Romero.
Oh God!
The ultimate crossover. Those are 2 guys that oh God. Anyway, so.
Oh, they would just if they were at odds with each other, man, they would go to the ends of the earth to bring each other down.
That's true. All right, so the point being, moving on being kind of a big thing with their arc. Of course, a lot of great comedy stemming from it. There says, you know what, Joyce, you're right. I don't doubt you. Why don't you meet me at 7? Let's meet at Enzo's too while we're at it. So then they end up going to the lab, from season 2. Of course, she's kind of a flash of Bob's death, and in doing so, Hopper is brutally attacked
by Grigori.
Yes, by Grigori. Of course, I love that through all of our kind of big climax of our 3 moments here, it seems raining and storming. I love the rain. The rain kind of represents danger for all 3 of our characters in their individual storylines. Again, kind of the weather pattern being kind of the connective tissue while they are separated in their stories. I thought that was kind of a nice touch too in the editing. So like the Scoop Troop, I'll call them. So the Scoop Troop, they piece together the coded message, and of course they find the loading dock entrance, and they see kind of the Russians up to no good, and ultimately, and let's see. So Billy and Heather, they're having dinner with Tom, the newspaper guy. They're having dinner with Tom and his wife, and of course now the mind flare is on to 11 because Billy's just kind of put 2 and 2 together. Wait a minute, that's the girl who sealed up the opening.
Mm-hmm.
It's her. The one who keeps defeating me each season. He's vaporizing the Demogorgon and sealing up the. What is this girl doing?
There's a nice loop throwing when they showed that Heather was alive.
Oh yeah.
Except it wasn't. Except as we all know now, it wasn't really Heather.
Of course, Tom is really brutal. He just kind of gets hit in the head with that wine bottle and everything. Of course, get drugged and hit in the head with wine bottles. Also, okay, here's an example of something here where there's some elements of this season that, again, payoff is kind of the operative word. So forgive me if I'm saying it often, because I think some ideas are really cool, but some of them either have no payoff or some are just put in for visual flair. And I mentioned Mrs. Driscoll. I do like Mrs. Driscoll, but I do got to admit, the fertilizer bit is just there just to be creepy and weird.
Yeah, that's why I'm not like in love with her or anything like that. Like I feel like her storyline just kind of like peters out and goes into a really weird place.
That's a fair. I'm saying I like her from the introductory point. The fact that we kind of mentioned, oh yeah, she's my grandma. She's kind of going to visit her and stuff. It's kind of
sure.
Point being though,
love the gag of like 2 people at a time.
Yeah, that whole thing. That's what I'm saying. You kind of get that.
The whole cavalcade of kids in here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You get stuff like that by proxy. Right. And Driscoll, that's kind of why she sticks. Anyway, so let me ask you this. So here's the thing: the fertilizer thing really makes no sense because there's no payoff to play. Okay, why is the Inside Out? Sorry, darn it. Why? Sorry. Why does the Upside Down? Why does the Flare need fertilizer? The only logic I can infer, which is none is given. The only logic I can infer is when we've seen glimpses of the Upside Down. There's like kind of a subterranean kind of like you have like the floating kind of specks of toxic kind of air going around there. It feels like kind of like subterranean kind of title, like kind of the diet, like kind of a subterranean diet of the Upside Down. That's the only logic I can figure. Like, why fertilizer?
I mean, they barely even revealed what the chemicals were for anyway.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't find that stuff out. It just feels like, okay. I mean, it's creepy, and I guess it's kind of mysterious. It's inhuman, but what does it really mean?
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to episode 4, the sauna test.
All right. I got to admit, guys, I think this episodes 4, 5, and 6 are kind of like. It's funny because I really like the first 3 episodes, but it's not like these episodes are bad. It's just they kind of blend together for me a little bit.
Let's see. Well, I mean, again, I think towards the latter half, things really, again, kind of spice up and kind of delineate themselves a little bit more. I mean, basically, honestly, 4, again, the sauna test being like the operative thing is like it ends with the big sauna confrontation. So, I mean, each one is kind of more adhering to what the episode title is, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess at the start of things here, Max is educating 11 in Wonder Woman, basically the idea of like kind of independence, independence for men, which again is a decent lesson for 11. So again, because we've seen from the 2 seasons now, she's had a great dependency with Mike. In season 2, she was kind of out on her own. She's kind of learned the ways of the world. She's been kind of joined at the hip with Mike ever since. She's kind of learned to kind of invest in herself as a person. That's kind of nice.
Mm.
Kind of using Wonder Woman as kind of the inciting incident for that. That's kind of cool too. Let's see, Billy. So again, in terms of what our bad guy plot is here, so Billy is basically spreading the possession and building an army, and kind of supplies for the Flare at the end of the day. It's kind of what he's doing here with all the people who are being possessed and becoming hosts for the Mind Flare.
He's building.
Yes, he is building.
We don't know. We didn't know for what yet, though.
You build it, they will be terrified.
Yes.
But really, I love the introduction of the Mind Flayer too, because one of my favorite visuals in the whole thing is like the very first shot we see of the Mind Flayer here, where again it's in silhouette, basically looking exactly like the giant image that was kind of marketed all throughout season 2. Remember the giant, like the in the distance you had the giant. We now know that was the Mind Flayer specifically, the giant, that giant kind of spider-like thing that Will drew in season 2 that was all over the marketing. So that's what the just seeing it in silhouette kind of connected out. It's like, oh, it's the same thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's giving it, and they're building it a physical form.
And again, just being realized of these inside-out creatures, and it's just the embodiment of the upside down. It's all creepy and really fitting.
It makes you wonder if there's like more than one of those things out there.
It does. Makes you. Well, again, it's like a manifestation. Again, the idea is like it might just be really when you're in the upside down. This thing might be just like a fully existing creature. This is how it's manifesting itself in the other world. That's my logic on it. Anyway, so
Like
Joyce,
this could be just a part of the Mind Flayer.
quite possibly. I mean, I'm saying this is like how it's kind of fueling itself in the world with what it has. Like again, it's like out of rats to people and vice versa. Like we don't know what this thing's naturally made of in the upside down.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Joyce and Hopper. So let's see, so they have a lot of team up comedy with them. Whole the arc of Detective Byers. It's kind of I like that Joyce is kind of in the fray of the action here. Like we don't have the whole thing like Joyce stay here. Joyce is now she's along for the ride. She's calling the shots a lot more now.
Like why don't you would you like to come work with me for the PD for Hawkins PD?
Speaking of investigative stuff, of course, Hopper interrogating Larry. Oh, this is a fun scene. Oh God! Here's the thing. I'm two minds here because in both in a positive sense. There's one. It's like he's just beating the ever loving crap out of poor Carrie Elways. Because no, not Carrie Elways. Don't beat him up. But by the same time, this is a scummy character. You have to beat him. It's like I don't blame him. It's like oh God. Oh poor Carrie. Like you broke my nose, and he almost cuts his finger off, which I'm terrified by.
I'll tell you what. I was kind of cringing when I saw him put his finger in the cigar cutter. Yeah. I was like, I can almost feel that.
Oh yeah. So let's see. So the IUs they now thanks to this wonderfully directed interrogation by because I love I just love the energy here. Where it's just Winona Ryder's just like saying, "Is he just what do you expect? He's a cop. What are you calling the police? They're here." Just Hopper's going in there. It's like he just walks in so confidently. Just says, "Is he in?" Says, "Yes, great." Just walks in there. Right, so they have some leads. They're chasing out all these land purchases from.
Technically, a lot of the stuff Hopper does could be considered just cause.
Essentially, kind of the Romero way of doing things.
I mean, it wouldn't be illegal because you're allowed to do something like that if you have just cause. I mean, the whole beating him up thing might be a bit far, but the whole investigation thing.
Well, sure, yeah. All right, so I'm sorry, you guys want to take the lead on some of this stuff? I just feel like I'm just kind of going through.
Let's see, where are we in the episode? I don't know.
I was going to go to the Scoop Troop next, but
Scoop Troop.
Basically, the Scoop Troop they plan to.
Man, this is a situation where I'm sorry, I binged the whole thing in one sitting, so I'm kind of like it's kind of run together for me. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, okay. Well, I'm saying in terms of like just kind of okay, so let's talk about the Scoop Troopers. The Scoop Troop they plan to infiltrate the loading dock and check the box to see what the Russians are kind of what they're doing there, and they need the help of Erica.
First of all, Dragon, let's get into it right now. I think it's clearly a taste issue thing. It really is. Like, kind of humor is right up my alley, honestly.
And me personally, I hated Erica. I really did.
Oh man, really?
I really did.
Hated?
Again, it's personal taste. Again, it's not a problem with this. I mean, in my opinion,
I understand it not being your cup of tea, but hate's a strong word.
I really nothing against the actress. I'm saying with the character, I didn't like this character at all. And she would look. I just really didn't like her. To me, she's like an '80s DW from Arthur. I really didn't like her.
Oh God.
I'll split the difference. Like there are moments when I liked her, and there are moments when I didn't.
All right. Well, I thought she was really amusing throughout.
I mean, let me just say that. Let me just say I'm more leaning towards your side, Tiki. I liked her more times than I did.
uh, I mean, I just the whole thing. Like, it's anyone who works in customer service. This girl is just like a nightmare with this free samples.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I actually, you guys remember, I actually used to work in an ice cream place.
Yeah. Jacob, did people abuse the free sample policy?
You didn't have to sing, did you?
There was at least
If you ever worked at Farrell's, then you would have to sing Dragon.
Why do they always make people sing
there
in
was
ice cream places?
there was at least one person who tried to get free sample. Like there's just like this one guy who's like came in and like tried to sample something, then got something else, then came in the next day and tried sampling it, and I was like you just sampled that yesterday.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm
So I was like,
one of those. I'm really conscientious about the sampling thing because I've so was Curb Your Enthusiasm episode once about like a sampler lady. It was like Larry Davis kind of went off on her. I don't know why. Maybe that indoctrinated me in some way. Just like I've only taken a sample once. At least at this point, I've only sampled like using a little sample spoon and everything. I've only did that sample thing once, and it was actually really worthwhile. I did the sample thing on like cookie and cream, like this Oreo filling sort of things. Not exactly. At the point being, I tried this one sort of ice cream. It's delicious. I love it.
but yeah,
Weird tangent.
like so. Yeah, like I work in customer sub. My two jobs have been in customer service, and yeah, that definitely stuff kind of happens.
Mhm. All right.
Anyway, so absolute taste issue.
Yeah, the free ice cream for life thing to convince her to get on board because they need someone small enough to fit through the air docket.
Yeah.
USS Butterscotch.
Oh God.
That's a lot of ice cream.
And not BoJack Horseman's father.
Oh, you know what? Oh my God! I'm sorry. I've just put this together now. Remember? Oh God, Tiki. Do you remember from Kenan and Kel? Remember when they Kenan and Kel? They had the stall. They had the stall at the restaurant. But basically, I guess Kenan's stuck at dinner and he needs to be at someplace else. And everyone gets locked in the fridge. But
Yes, of course. I remember the fridge episode. Yes.
But before they do that, I believe that
Kenan and Kel, honestly.
I recall before that they had, if I recall before that, the little sister, I think, God, is it blanking on it? Is it Keisha? Darn it.
I'm totally blanking on her name too.
Point being, Kenan's little sister, Kenan got her in the action to get her to the stall, and she got this giant, like, again, it was like a nautical theme of like this giant boat of ice cream.
Oh God.
God.
I will never this is just a random foodie tangent here. Just indulge me for a second. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I will never order a big indulgent ice cream like this because there's so much pressure on it to melt. You know what I mean? It's like, I remember one time I ordered like an indulgent ice cream sundae from Disneyland, and it was literally after midnight. And keep in mind, it was Southern California on a nice night, but I'm just saying it wasn't like in the middle of the day or anything. And the thing melted in like 10 minutes, and I ended up throwing most of it away. Like, I don't know, like indulgent ice cream like this, it's cool in theory, piling on all those flavors and toppings and everything. But man, ice cream melts so quickly. It's, what?
We can go on about ice cream for a long while now. We gotta get back focused. We gotta refocus here.
Okay, but do you agree with me though? Do you agree that it's?
That's what I'm saying to you. I fully agree with you, but again, we can't have this conversation right now.
I'm sorry.
That's the one. I want to continue this conversation, but we can't ethically do that. Right.
All right.
So anyway, the point is, they loop in Erica however you may feel about her, which again, me not so much. Everyone else seems to be a little bit on the bandwagon.
Can't spell America without Erica.
That was a good. I got to admit that was a great line though. I won't lie. Anyway, so the point is they get stuck in the elevator. So he's like Erica. She gets through the air duct there, and they get on the Russian elevator, which is like one of those industrial elevators. It goes like flights and flights down. Of course, they don't have the key card, which means they can't stop. They push the button. This is where Erica's really getting on my nerves. Like push the button. What do you think he's doing?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway,
it was neat. It was a nice twist that it was actually an elevator. I was like, holy crap, it's an elevator.
Yep. Let's see. So moving on. Let's see. So Tom. Oh, I love the direction here. So Tom fires Nancy and Jonathan. We, the audience, know that Tom has been possessed, but they do not. And I love the direction here. Like there's this great little touch where Tom, when he really snaps at him, he's just going to kind of go into like the all the things that they've done wrong here. Just Tommy. He kicks this drawer in, and when he does it, like the whole camera shifts and it turns into a Dutch angle. I love that.
Mhm.
Like, the whole scene literally shifts. Like I've rarely have ever seen that when he literally when he interacts with the one thing, that slam, that shock, just shocks the camera angle. It's great. So they get fired, and Jonathan's kind of calling Nancy out, like her recklessness. Like, come on, Nancy, couldn't like I just asked you.
I think it's just totally justified, honestly.
Yeah, and again, I like that Jonathan's not like being mean to her. He's just being really honest and calling her as he sees it. And then Karen,
Realistic. That's what that's the word I would use.
absolutely. So Karen, Mrs. Wheeler, she gives, I guess the idea, and again, I'm just gleaming. I think this is what they're going with that whole like the weird Billy subplot with her this whole time. I think is that Karen is trying to live vicariously through her daughter because she doesn't lead an exciting life. Would be my guess. It's like Nancy's like, she's going up against, and she's entering the work, kind of she's in the working girl scenario. She's trying to prove those jerks wrong. She's trying to be a news hound, and Karen's like, oh man, I wish I could, but my time has passed. I can't even get into an affair these days, man. Go do it. Challenge the system, man.
Right.
Let's see. Okay. Good stuff here. Oh yeah, so we see the mind flare. We're continuing with the host here. Basically, okay. The gang. I'm sorry. The gang. They have this. They're planning their ambush at the sauna. They're planning the ambush at the sauna, so they can basically get the mind flare in there, so they can basically kind of burn them out.
Which kind of goes with the whole can't have heat thing.
Exactly. So Billy, the whole menace of season 2 of Billy returns here, where again basically time doubled. It's doubly as frightening here, where he's stuck in there, and he's like the host. It's kind of a symbiotic hive connection. Many of the hosts, they if one feels pain, the other one feels pain, but it's also kind of symbiotic. How kind of like they're kind of like these two beings in the same body. So he's in the sauna, he's just kind of writhing around there, he's just like breaking through the glass and everything. Oh god, it's so terrifying. And Mike slowly, yeah.
Although it's also more parasitic than symbiotic.
Well, I mean, sure.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's like a parasitic hive mind.
That's fair. Anyway, so Mike earned some points back here with 11. When he says, "There's a really nice bit here." Mike's like, hey, he's about to, he basically hits him at the last second there to try to save 11's bacon. And of course, 11 she returns the favor by essentially by tossing Billy through a brick wall, which is freaking awesome, by the way. It tosses him through a brick wall. If he didn't have a parasite, he's not walking away from that. And we have the money shot of the gang. There are a lot of money shots throughout the season. Like the gang just like basically have like an open window shot or something. Like there's like a giant hole in the wall where you see them all kind of like standing there. It's like okay, and kind of an epic pose, like a group shot. And on my favorite, this episode has my favorite ending. We have a "We'll Meet Again" playing as all these hosts are kind of building up and just saying, "Oh God, there's more of them." We'll meet again. Of course, the ending of Freaks, so the end of Doctor Strangelove. Love them. We'll meet again so much.
Yeah. All right, chapter 5, The Flayed.
Yes. So we check in with the elevator here. I love ticked off Steve. Again, this is where I got a little bit of just vicariously through Steve, just like yelling at Erica.
Like the downgraded version of really mean Steve.
Sure.
Steve.
Sure, but I love just how Steve is kind of like letting Erica have it here. I don't care about Dina or the uncle or Uncle Jack. We're gonna be dead here. We're gonna be dead in a Russian elevator.
I mean, he's entirely correct.
He is.
He's like, whatever happens to us afterwards is small change compared to this.
Yep, they were in a very precarious situation. The idea is they've been trapped in this place for hours. At least, again, assuming they have like a clock or something in there, it's been 8 hours.
Yeah, they did mention Dustin and Erica sleeping.
Yeah,
true. Let's see. The really clever play, by the way. So they hide above the elevator, so they can just basically escape after the rush hits an elevator. Presumably, people are going to go in and go out, and they're going to have a card key. So they're going to open the door, and they basically hide above, and they kind of slip out before the doors close. And there's now whatever you feel about Eric, you got this is really stupid bit though, where we have this green acidic substance, and the idea, at least as far as I can glean, and initially on a rewatch, I found okay, there was a payoff for this. Initially, I was wondering what the heck's the green acidy substance for, but no, it's the fuel for the machine. It fuels the kind of the machine that kind of is the key for the gate, essentially.
Right.
So that's what it. Anyway, the point being, this green, obviously, I mean, I'm thinking plutonium. If I were in the 80s, I'd be thinking plutonium, especially if Back to the Future has just come out. I'm thinking plutonium or something along the lines, okay, just obviously something you want to be really cautious around. And the little girl's like, I'm going to drink this. Like, really?
Yeah, that was dumb. I'm not going to fight you on that.
Anyway, so the point being...
well, Alicia gets caught out on it later. Like, you still want to drink that?
Yeah, justice. Okay, so let's see. Speaking of some stuff here, let's go to Hess Farms. So Hess Farms, basically, it's one of the Russian labs, kind of one of the Russian. I like the idea, like you go like beneath this. There's this hidden entrance beneath a bed, and you go beneath the bed, and you have this hidden sub level, or I guess a basement for the lab.
And it's pretty much, and it's overall this scene is what pretty much kicks in the whole Terminator thing.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So we have a rematch. So Hopper has his rematch with Grigori, and
Grigori means business.
Is that true?
What?
So you say, okay, I'm sorry, I misread you there. You say Grigori means business. For a moment there's, oh my gosh, Grigori translate the business by such... that would have been awesomely coincidental if that were the case. We're like, he is all business, man. That is really fitting. Sorry, just... Anyway.
Fine.
Moments.
Phrasing. Anyway, as Hopper's having his rematch there, and they're getting away by the skin of their teeth, and they kind of lock him in there with they buy some time with the furniture and everything, kind of barricading him in there with the furniture. They pick up an extra Russian. They pick up Alexei, or as Hopper calls him, Smirnov. Yeah, I think Hopper's been to a few film festivals. Yakov Smirnoff humor there, but
yeah.
Anyway, so let's see. Of course, we have this really great moment with Grigori. Though, I don't want to glaze over the whole policemen have rules. That little standoff has a gun put to his head. There's really, and of course, we know Hopper. He will pull that trigger. He will.
And he did.
Yes. All right, so we have a comedy.
Just like Grigori has very good reflexes.
That he does. So we have a comedy of errors that just happens with the Alexei stuff here, as they kind of talk about here. So we have this great. So they capture Alexei here. They have to walk all the way to a 7-Eleven because they blew up the car somehow. And of course, Todd. We got to talk about Todd.
Oh God,
the Todd father, as his car is referred to. So just this hysterical gag where it's just it's a matter of police business. Just as Hopper is kind of flaunting of course, like the badge is like either the badge has been ripped off of his ID or something. His dad is like, just such a so shady. Just like he's the bar of the car for police business with at Slim Jim in hand and everything. Of course, and of course Alexei with the Slurpee.
Yeah, this here's one of the most dangerous men in the world.
Child murderer and all this, and this thing is looking completely harmless, just with a slushy.
It's like I love how it's like in movies a lot of times we just get the whole we need to steal a car just to get ourselves back on the road. But this car has personality. This car weaves its way throughout the season. It kind of becomes a character.
Yep, and of course
Todd
we have
Todd Father.
We have Detective Byers kind of helping out again, just that being a running gag. The whole Joyce is kind of acting kind of like as law enforcement, so Detective Byers.
They're the buddy comedy.
Yep. And then, of course, this leads them to Murray.
Oh, God.
I do like...
I kind of forgot about this guy in season 2. I got to be honest with you.
This actor's really funny. This is Brett Gelman. He's a really funny actor. He
was only in one episode of season 2.
Well, kind of 2. I mean, remember he had the...
he was with the Jonathan and Nancy thing.
I want to say spanned 2 days. Basically, the Andrew Stanton episodes did that stuff, so I want to say that was
Mhm.
so anyway. But also, there's kind of a fun payoff too, because if you remember, I mean, I don't know if it was in those episodes, but I think they might have seen him in a little earlier in season 2 because the Murray character, he went to Hopper saying there are Russian spies in Hawkins, and get to season 3, it all paid off. Awfully clever. So yes, of course, and Brett Gelman, really funny comedic actor. He had this really hilarious bit in The Other Guys, which is a movie I can't recommend more highly to you. Just all got The Other Guys. There's that. He's in Blunt Talk with the Patrick Stewart show. He's appeared in things. He's really funny. Of course, he's wonderful. I think he's really great here. So I think he's even better here than he was in season 2, where he's this conspiracy theorist. He's fluent in Russian. He's very paranoid, especially of Alexei by first put him on the metal detector and everything. And we just have Joyce just kind of tearing him a new one here, just tearing in the Murray here. So, look, I don't have time for your stuff right now. I need to find out what's making my magnets fall off my fridge. Just channeling Winona Ryder in this season, specifically this moment here. She really channels her inner Farmiga, and I love it.
By the way, have I ever brought up to you guys that Winona Ryder went to my high school?
Maybe once, but I really don't recall.
Yeah,
I don't remember that personally.
Nice little fun fact there.
Okay.
The same high school that American Graffiti shot its high school scenes at, by the way.
Right, I remember that part, though.
I know this is kind of lower tier, but they weren't. No, it wasn't in the same years or anything. But my mom went to the same school that Beverly D'Angelo graduated from.
Nice.
All right. Okay, let's see. So, all right. So basically, we set up Murray here. It's mainly what we do here. So again, Murray's just we set him up as the translator, and they're going to get some answers. And I think we do most of the answers in the next episode. So so let's see. So the kids, Nancy, basically we're starting to kind of meld our stories together here with the kids, Nancy and Jonathan. They all team up to kind of solve the mystery because their mystery's going to cross over. Where basically the plan is now to follow Mrs. Driscoll. Again, if she's working for the flare, she'll just release her, and then she'll lead us to the flare. We'll follow that, and we'll kind of take them down. Being the operative plan. Then we have the receptionist giggle 2 at a time.
This girl's insane. She brought a whole circus of them in here.
Then we have some classy bits here where, again, I'm so glad that, honestly, I don't know why. Tiki, it might just be me. I don't know. It's just because of that Mike and 11, kind of like the misunderstanding stuff. This is where we start to fix this. Maybe the back half. I'm not saying there's necessarily a better half than the other. But I don't know. 5 onwards is where we start to kind of, okay, now we're getting, because again, this is what's always been intrinsically what I love about Stranger Things, when everybody gets on the same page and we're like, kind of in the thick of it together, and we're all on the same side, just kind of like dealing with the insanity together.
This is an interesting crossroads between us, Dragon, because to me, when everyone's getting together, trying to figure out the mystery, all throwing out theories with one another, I mean, you're right. It's good. It is kind of the core of the show, but it feels a little samey to me. And not to mention, I feel like they kind of they throw the exposition a little too fast, where it's like it's almost a little hard for me to keep up with what they're throwing at us in this moment.
Well, they're not. I think you're thinking of a little later. Well, I'm sorry. Go on. Keep going.
No, I'm just saying, just in general, like it is nice that all the characters are together. Sure, I just we've seen this sort of thing play out time and time again on the show, where they're all together, they're all throwing out theories, and it's I know, like, this was kind of the first point in the season where things started to feel just a little bit formulaic for me. So I think that's really interesting that you really, really like this a lot. And me, like I said, I'm not saying it's bad by any means. It started to feel like a little bit familiar. Like we've been down this same kind of road before with this show.
I just formulate.
Right. So, for example, Mike and 11, that's really kind of a neat little scene. They're kind of patching things up here with the M&Ms. You kind of using it as I want to say M&Ms were kind of the thing that I can't remember for the life of me. I forget if it was supposed to be. I forget if they were going with Reese's Pieces in the first season, because they homaged DT with the Reese's with the candy with the first season. Can't remember if they did like a deep cut gag where it was supposed to be M&Ms, so it was M&Ms, or if it was supposed to be just literally what it was in DT. I can't remember. So point being, they kind of have like an olive branch with the M&Ms here, which says, hey, does your species like M&Ms? I like your new look, that sort of stuff. That's kind of charming. It's like, all right, good progress, hooray. So of course, then we have the action scene here. We have this is the big showdown with Tom and Bruce, basically the Jake Busey character and Tom. So and again, really, we have linked injuries here. Basically, of course, we have a lot of the whammo blammo action here in the hospital, where we have the flickering lights, a lot of the great trimmings here. Flickering lights. We have the idea. I always read that they murdered the other patients on the floor too. By the way, it just creeped me out.
Mm-hmm.
Patients and the doctors.
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Of course, I'm kind of a sucker for one specific action beat, which I guess is in retrospect probably prevalent in the '80s. So again, probably is befitting anyway. But I always love when you can work a fire extinguisher into an action set piece. It's like when you can like clock a guy in the head with a fire extinguisher. It's always fun.
My personal favorite shot of that particular episode and that sequence and the episode in general, I guess, and it's like it's pretty much after they managed to kill those two, and then then they start moving. The fleshy thing starts moving.
Mm-hmm.
They come together, and as it's coming together, the lights go out.
Oh yeah, so this is great. So we have they kind of do this blob thing where it's almost like it's kind of a little homage to the Blob, where they separate, they kind of turn the gelatinous, and they kind of fuse together. And as the lights go out, they assemble, and then the light kind of flickers on. Then we reveal kind of the spidery mini version of the mind flare here, which is like just roars like God, it's terrifying.
That was one of my favorite shots of the season.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, Steve actually won a fight this episode too.
Oh yeah. That is a great payoff to his character for sure.
Like, you did it. You actually want to fight.
And of course, this is going to backfire.
Steve Harrington, man, just the arc on that guy is just one of the best kind of comeback stories of a character that started out kind of on the wrong foot.
Yeah, but he was never, even from the beginning, though, he was never like a terrible guy. He was just like
he was kind of a douche. He was a douche.
That's the thing. The worst thing that he did was he broke the camera. And again, he didn't want to break the camera, but he just kind of did it to fit in. So that's the thing.
I mean, he had good reason to break the camera too, to be honest.
Well, I mean, yeah, Jonathan was kind of cross. He was crossing a little bit of a line, but he was going through stuff, so it was kind of. It was a John Hughesian phase for Jonathan.
I mean, and he's now one of the crew.
Yep. Mm-hmm. All right. So, okay, I guess that brings us to episode 6. That brings us to E Puris Unum. It's on the money.
Yes.
One could say this episode's on the money. No, I forget. All right, so let's see. Let's see.
I understood that reference.
Okay, so 11. Oh my God, we have this really great action here. 11 goes to town on the spider mind flayer here. Just like he was like up, down, like it just throws it all around the room and out the window.
Well, kind of reminds me of like one of those trademark MCU moments where a character goes to town on another character.
Yeah. Like a Groot or a Hulk smash moment. Something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
11 smash.
Yeah.
We also have drugged Steve and Robin in this episode, which is just terrible.
There is a tradition in all the seasons of Stranger Things that this episode kind of continues, where Steve always gets hit in the face, and he always has like some nasty scarring on his face. Right. He always gets beaten. Basically, so Steve, the idea is that Steve, he knocked out he won that fight, and of course, unfortunately, in winning that fight, the Russian got up and he walked away afterwards, and he got his buddy.
I was like, Steve, that's why I was saying, one of you should have at least stayed in the room with him.
Basically, Steve is being interrogated. Steve and Ron are being interrogated. Steve's getting the crap beat out of him. And I love this logic here. The idea is that they're not lying at all. They're telling him the truth. I mean, there's like maybe one like a little vague in one detail, but in essence, what can they lie about? So they're interrogated by the Russians, given sodium pentothal and everything, and being drugged, and or at least something along the lines of sodium pentothal. It's blue, so I'm assuming it's the same thing.
Who do you work for? Scoops Ahoy.
And it's not a lie. That's the thing. It's the fact that it's just too hard for them to believe. It's too hard for the Russians to believe it was that easy.
Scoops.
I don't think the Russians just wanted to believe that just a couple ordinary kids were able to crack their code.
Exactly.
That's exactly it. It's like a pride thing. That's how I read it.
Yep.
And
And of course,
infiltrate
it's
their
her just
base.
calling out that you guys are going to be so screwed.
Like these ordinary kids are just able to crack their code with a Russian diction, which is a Russian to English dictionary, and find their way into the mall. It's like they should have made their code less painfully obvious.
That is true. All right, let's see. So Dustin. Then we have Dustin puts Erica in her place with the whole nerd revelation.
Yeah,
Dragon. Okay, I got to stop things here. Like, say what you will about Erica, but I come on. Did you not appreciate this a little bit?
Well, I'm saying I think it's salvageable from this point forward, but it still does. I gotta be honest. I mean, in terms of her character, this is a step forward. But in terms of the attitude, I'm still like iffy on it after this point. It's not as bad as it was in the beginning, though. But it's
fair enough.
It's
Fair enough. I understand the attitude thing. Like I said, that is a taste issue. But
I pretty much love how he just like basically said, "You're pretty much calling us nerds." It's like, look at you, you're just as much of a nerd as the rest of us.
And writing wise, that's like kind of say I'm applauding Stranger Things when they kind of call people out and that sort of stuff, and they kind of like with Steve Harrington as a character, for example. That's a stamp of Stranger Things. Like we do moments like this. There's a good stamp of Stranger Things for you, you know. Like when we do stuff like enforced like separation of Eleven and Mike, it's like okay, that doesn't feel like as great as other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, let's see. So, of course, also so as Steve and Robin again, they're injected with sodium pentothal, and of course, this just drugs them up, and they're like laughing and having a great time and trying to hop their way to freedom. It's just oh god, they're having a trip this episode, to say the least.
Literal trip.
Yep. Let's see. Transition a little bit away. Okay, so Dustin and Erica, they kind of come in to save the day, and they break him out with a cattle prod.
And it's clever that they tried that. He targets the guy with the metal bulletproof vest.
Yep.
It's like that doesn't do much good against electricity, buddy.
Oh, it doesn't. Let's see. So we have 11. Mike and Max have the argument over 11 here, where they're kind of debating, like, 11 should be the one who decides, how she uses her powers and everything. Of course, Mike's just really concerned for her. Then we have the big "I love you" revelation here. Mike just says, "I love her. I can't lose her again." And it kind of stops everything. And of course, 11 just kind of she then walks in the room. And questions, "Oh, how much did she hear?" And then of course, like, Mike's just kind of caught off guard. I call me a romantic. I think it's kind of sweet. All right.
It's cute.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Hopper and Joyce. They're Hopper and Joyce.
They're trying to interrogate Alexi.
Right. Oh yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So basically, we learn the
strawberry
Slurpee.
Slurpee, yeah. I'm sorry. I wanted to call it a slushy for a second, but I knew that was wrong.
They're pretty much the same thing. As Hopper puts it, they're all the same. It's syrup and ice.
Ooh, okay. I could go on an ice cream level tangent about the differences between an icy and a Slurpee, for example, but let's not go down that path.
Well, I mean, I was just channeling Hopper there. That's what he said.
Oh, right. But the idea is, he's I love how he handles Alexi, though, where he just says, okay, this guy's getting a little too comfy here with the strawberry versus the cherry. And I love that, like, Joyce has got up on the point here. Well, you did ask for cherry, Hopper, and you got strawberry. it's just, I love.
He didn't have cherry.
Do you think he just made that up, or do you think they actually didn't have cherry?
Honestly, I've never seen I don't think I've ever seen a Slurpee machine. Like, cherry is one of the go-tos. Usually there's always cherry and there's always Coke. Those are like the two go-tos. Like, they can recycle all the other ones. Personally, I'm more of a blue raspberry guy.
Well, he did go to Burger King. Like, would they have had that at Burger King?
You think he got the Slurpee from 7-Eleven?
Well, that's fair. I mean,
Burger King was ices, not Slurpees.
I think it might have been. Well, again, we're saying Slurpees, but wait, which one was it? Was it an icy or Slurpee?
It was a Slurpee.
For sure it was a Slurpee.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Right, okay.
It was because remember, they stopped by a 7-Eleven, and that's where they got the Toddfather car.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's how we got hooked on it. Okay. Anyway, The point being, I love how Hopper is how clever he is here. Where he says, "Okay, Alexa's giving us business here," and he can basically puts the fear of God into him. He's kind of throws him around a little bit, doesn't hurt him, and he sends him out. He tosses the keys at him, the keys of the handcuffs. So you just they're all worrying and on the edge. You're saying, "Oh God, is he going to get? He's getting away." And Hopper's like convinced, like he's bluffing. He's going to come back in here. Of course, we're thinking that. Of course, it starts to drive away, and we reveal, yep, Hopper was so strategic here in the fact that he doesn't have a mark on him, so if he goes back to his Russian buddies, they're going to see he turned traitor on him.
Right.
Told him stuff, and it's a perfect plan. He calls him up like, "Yay, Hopper, awesome, love it." All right.
One thing that's universal. One thing that's apparently he doesn't even need to understand English for that or Russian for that.
Then they finally get some answers from Alexa. They learn about the upside down doorway has been reopened by the Russians. Which leads to this another hilarious scene where Hopper puts in a call to essentially the Dr. Owens guys, basically the government, the guys who ran the operation of season 2, the guys who took over from the corrupt operation season 1 guy.
Philadelphia Public Library.
Yes, and we have the antique chariot. Just keeps it in his wallet. Just antique chariot here. Then, of course, we have this thing where basically he's calling for backup, the cavalry, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have this hysterical thing where Joyce is now panicking, realizing the kids are in jeopardy and they're 10 minutes away from ground zero. And there's this hysterical moment where, again, it's a very Vera Farmiga-esque Winona Ryder moment here, where she calls the number back to put a rush on it. Hey, this is Antique Chariot's partner, Little Wagon, or Wheelbarrow. It was Wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow. I just want to put a rush on it. Oh God, it's this is hysterical, and also he's being called Fat Rambo. It's it's wonderful. So again, now we're beginning to honestly, all three of our stories link together with this. All three of our stories are beginning to link together with the fact that they all need to get to this key. They all need to. All their stories revolve around turning this thing off. At the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. So 11.
When the stories do start to come together, that is. All right, this is Stranger Things in its prime. This is where we're really getting into honestly probably the best stretch of episodes that the show's ever done. So I just want to emphasize that, even though I'm not over the moon about episodes 4, 5, and probably about half of 6. I mean, once we start to get the end game of the season in place and the chess pieces start to line up, then it really gets good. It really is just kind of a build up, right? Like it's like I think that is kind of like the strength and weakness of separating our characters. Is that the weakness, of course, is that we don't get as much of the built-in chemistry as we have in previous seasons, especially with Dustin. But the strength is that when the characters eventually do collide into each other and when they do all reunite, it's very satisfying. It's cathartic.
Yeah.
So, all right, go ahead.
Let's see. So 11, she goes into Billy's mind. Let's talk about this sequence for a second. The flashback on the beach.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. It's pretty artistically done. I like it. I don't know.
Building in some kind of sympathy for the villain of season 2, and I guess kind of the physical embodiment of the villain for this season.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's ultimately kind of the thing that saves the day in the end, so I guess it's got that going for it.
It is, but I gotta be honest, though. It wins a little bit of sympathy for him, but again, Billy was such kind of a psychotic monster in the other season, though. He's like, I have no sympathy for the devil on that one. But again, this guy, I see where they're going with on here. I'm saying for me personally, it's like it still didn't make me like, okay, like this guy's gonna live or anything. I kind of called that this guy was gonna die. I gotta be honest.
I thought that was a pretty predictable. Yeah, I mean, first of all, his name starts with the letter B, so
Yeah, in retrospect, that should have been the real tip off.
I mean,
frankly, he's lucky to have survived season 2.
Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, like you said, sure, that kind of stuff does happen, though. Like the whole being abused leads to abusing others.
Yep.
But that also doesn't necessarily equal sympathy, though.
True.
That's the main problem. It's just it's basically they're just trying. I mean, I know it's probably planned from the very beginning. It just seems like, oh, they're just trying to throw in some last-minute sympathy.
Because I get people. I don't know why. Because here's the thing: every time the makers of the show talk about it, there's a lot of love for Billy for some reason. It's always baffled me because I'm not saying he's not like a menacing villain, but it's just the fact that like why is there and people love the mullet? I think it's the honest reason.
I really think that is too, Dragon. I really think you hit it on the head.
But beyond that, though, I think it's just at its. It's that they love the mullet. That's the main reason, and I guess maybe I think what people are glazing over is the fact that he tried to kill Lucas, especially last season.
Yeah, the racism thing just kind of gets swept under the rug.
A little bit of racism, but also he was dating the stepsister, which again he feels like some sort of it's really twisted and screwed up. It's just really he tried to run over all of our guys on the street while they're on their bikes. It's like are we forgetting all this for a mullet, really?
And that was before he was possessed.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. All right, so and basically in 11 trying to get into the mind of the Mind Flayer here and getting to Billy's mind. Of course, Billy now has a fix on her location, and we're forming practically to scale a Mind Flayer. It's practically to scale the one from the Vision of season 2. So the idea is like all these possessed hosts are now fusing to turning inside out and kind of becoming fused together to form a Mind Flayer to attack our gang in the trailer, which brings us to episode 7, The Bite.
Yeah, so this is where the show, I mean, it really starts to come into high gear here. I mean, like I say, episode 7 and 8, honestly, dare I say, episode 7 and 8, season 3 might be the high point of Stranger Things as a whole. I really do think there's a case to be made for that.
It's a fair case. So we have I forgot to mention this earlier, and it's molded in here. So now we have the 4th of July Carnival, and also we have the Carrie Elway's character, the mayor, has been he's been threatened by the Russian.
Move your damn hot dog stand.
Oh God.
So now the point is now the episode 7, 8, it's the 4th of July, it's the big night, Carnival's happening. We have the fair. I gotta tell you, we have this really cutesy kind of coda at the start here. It's they're on the Ferris wheel. We have like little sister Holly, she's saying, "Look at the trees." I don't know, it's kind of cute.
I really love this. I'm sorry, Dragon, I'm gonna have to go to this well, but it kind of reminds me of how they would depict the smoke monster in Lost in the early seasons, where we just see trees falling in the distance in the jungle. Like I really dug that. That was a really good cold open.
You're doing some great correlation to, again, the idea is that's the Mind Flayer making its way to the cabin right now. All right, so then we have a little bit of firework foreshadow as well, because again, the fireworks are going off above there, and of course, like fireworks and the Mind Flayer, again, a little kind of a dual correlation to what the undoing of the other one's going to be. A little bit of setup there.
Sure.
Let's see. So we have the attack on Hopper's cabin here, where they're armed with shotguns. We have these tentacles bursting in through the place. 11 gets bit, and really importantly, she gets bit in the ankle there. Of course, it's going to lead to a really horrific sequence in the 8th one, which we'll get to.
That's one of the things I was talking about earlier when I said visceral body horror.
Yes, there's a lot. Oh God.
That big scene is oh God, that was hard.
We'll get there. So they end up having the patch up. So Bowie's 11 helps save the day. Basically, kind of rips this makeshift Mind Flayer apart in a few places. Kind of buys them some time. They break into a grocery store. Everybody's at the parade because there's no security in the 80s. And
it's just kind of interesting that they didn't try to run away to begin with.
Yeah,
I mean, I can understand why, to hold down the fort and all that, but
right.
It's just. There's this giant monster coming. Let's just hole ourselves in this one very destructible area.
Okay, can we address the death of the cabin though?
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of sad to see, but the cabin is going to blast. Here's the thing. I viewed it as it's really wrecked a lot of here, but I don't know if it's necessarily dead. It's really smashed the crap out of though.
I think we do see it in the last montage, we see it with the hole in it. It's not gone for good. You're right.
To be fair, there's a couple holes in the wall and the roof.
Yeah.
It got flayed in its own right.
I mean, again, it's kind of the point is like it's kind of this kind of warm and cozy set that's just kind of in shambles. It's kind of symbolic of like, oh, the home that Hopper built with 11 is kind of in shambles, and perhaps that's kind of a bad foreshadow of what's about that befall Hopper down the line. Maybe I don't know.
Mm.
Right. So we go to the grocery store trying to patch 11 up, and what we do here is, we have, again, Mike trying to communicate his feelings. And I do like that kind of parallel between Hopper and Mike, though, even though they're on kind of diametrically. I love, by the way, on the whole, too, we built this up in season 2, at the end of season 2, where Mike and Hopper, they're really at odds with each other because, again, Hopper lied about, 11 being back. He never told Mike, and that really, they really wanted to beat the crap out of him and stuff. He's like like a kid hitting the adult sort of thing. And he's just like, look, you can call me an a-hole and everything, right? But, she's back. You don't blame her for this. It's a really great scene in season 2 between them. So one being, that's what's kind of fueled like the little tension between the two of them. I like that while they are very diametrically opposite this season, they are very like-minded. Again, they both have feelings for somebody, but they can't quite communicate it the way they want to. So anyway, so they also get the fireworks idea going on here. Where Lucas does have a big significant. Lucas had the fireworks idea.
That's his biggest pull in the season is the fireworks bit.
That's the good pull in the season. Then you have like the relationship stuff. So it's a little bit, basically 2 bits.
Right.
Meanwhile, Scoop Troop. Oh yes, this is a big one for the Scoop Troop. They do this is where basically this is the audience are really receiving. From what I understand, the audiences love this episode because of the Scoop Troop stuff. Because you have Scoop Troop, they're hiding out in the movies. Essentially,
I gotta be honest with you. Like, it's not like it doesn't kill the episode at all. It's totally fine. But I thought the Back to the Future stuff was maybe a little bit too easy. Like, that was the point where I was like, all right, we're clearly just like, this is just 80s nostalgia overload at this point.
There's one missed opportunity for me. Okay, here's the thing. So it is 85, and of course, what comes out in 85, what takes place in 85? Well, it's Back to the Future, so it's kind of like you kind of have to do Back to the Future in this season. At least in some reference, but the missed opportunity for me is that given all the Russian stuff here, I know it's not exactly the same thing, but still, I mean, here's the thing: it's literally the scene right before it, and they could have just let that one moment play. It's like that. This literally is like a few moments afterwards. They couldn't have the Libyans. It's the Libyans.
Oh God!
We couldn't have had that. Really, it's like just that one. Because it would have been so. They're being chased and you're being chased by a foreign element. Really, it's literally it's right before that happens. It's literally where they're at right now when the movie comes on. They're doing the test with Einstein right after from the Libyans.
Like they found me. I don't know how, but they found me.
You know what I'm saying? I wish they just had a little bit of that in there. Anyway, but I don't know. Here's the thing. I think thematically, when we'll get to the last episode, thematically there is actually a little bit of a story reason for Back to the Future. It's a little light, but
Uh-huh.
It's kind of funny. This going to. I remember speculating from last season going into this season. I was hoping, if Back to the Future, fingers crossed. And kind of got it, so I'm a little happy with that. Anyway, so importantly, it's a really clever idea. They're going to hunker down the theater here. They're going to hide in the movie, and basically, when the crowd goes to leave the mall and goes to the bus. They'll sneak out the crowd. They'll have a ride home. It's a clever idea.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do love the whole projection thing. It feels very Back to the Future with the Alan Silvestri music playing underneath where Dustin's like, Mike, do you hear me? It's like Doc Brown talking to Marty here with the low battery walkie-talkie, all that.
What did I tell you about the low batteries?
Then we have the bathroom scene. This is the big talk word of the people are really loving the bathroom scene here between Steve and Robin.
Yeah, I thought this was very, very well done. It was a good subversion of a classic trope. It's like throughout the whole season, you just think it's obvious. Like, all right, Steve is going to get the girl. It's like we know it's going to happen. She's, they're very adversarial. Like, she literally has a counter of how much Steve sucks at the start of the season.
She does.
But yeah, it's great. It very much subverts that. And what I love about it is that Steve's reaction to it is just so so genuine. You know what I mean? So like it's disappointed, but at the same time, it's there's so much empathy there as well. And it's kind of it's the ending of a potential romance, but it's the blossoming of a great friendship.
Yeah, I love the idea that she was jealous of Steve, who would kind of get these girls again. And kind of, Steve the Hair Harrington. I've mentioned this before. Like, we did like a whole pitch. I mean, Joe. I won't go into the whole thing. Joe Keery, the actor who plays Steve. I really like him. Honestly, I'd love to see him in. If they ever used him in the MCU, like specifically in a Spider-Man movie, I'd love it as like a young foe form. Like me, I throw it. Again, I know the Spider-Man movies right now aren't really going into this, but down the line, if they ever wanted to introduce something, take another stab at the ones we've done in film already, I could see him as a more kind of classic Electro, like a guy who has like kind of like a full body web shooter of lightning going on.
Oh man, well that's way down the line, Dragon.
I know. I'm just saying, like based on like we did that pitch around for Christmas in July, Anyway.
Yeah.
One thing I always thought you could bring kind of like a youthful exuberance to a role, and just could be kind of like a quippy guy to kind of go up against Spider-Man as well. Anyway, sorry, I don't drift too far into that. Point being, Joe Keery is really good. Anyway, because I love he kind of plays a little bit of stupid in this scene here, where he plays, Robin is, she's coming out essentially as kind of elaborate here, but Steve, he doesn't get it, and just has this quiet moment like, oh, Steve. It's just I don't know why I just love that. But, oh, Steve, or Steve. It just doesn't quite. The boy doesn't get it for a second. I love it. All right. So let's see. So our young friends at the grocery store, they kind of in front of Eggo's because they had to get them in there in some way, shape, or form. In front of like the open Eggo freezer. She's
that is one thing that I will say about season 3 is that there are some tropes of Stranger Things that they just don't do in this season. Like we don't see the Upside Down at all. We don't really mention Eggos.
Well, then we see the Eggos.
Right. Yeah.
See the Eggos, and we do.
I think the Eggos aren't like a big fixture like they were before.
You're right. Of course, we have the new Coke gag.
Oh God,
it's delicious.
How can you drink this? Love the debate they're having. Well, it's just trying to focus.
John Carpenter's The Thing versus the original Thing from Another World.
God, that's so funny.
Which is like so inaccurate.
It is. So 11 finds Dustin, which basically leads to the big kind of reunion of them. But before we get there, we got to talk about the big car ride scene with Murray.
Oh God.
Oh, God. This scene's so genius because basically it's Murray doing what he did in season 2 with for Jonathan and Nancy, which kind of got them together. At the end of the day, Murray's Cupid. Murray is a bald, bearded Cupid at the end of the day. Right. He's paranoid. This is conspiracy theorist, but you know what? He believes in a love connection. Or it's just we just have these two bickering characters here. We're just saying, you know what? Just stop the car. Just look at each other's take love from the field. And then just get it out of your system, and of course, seeing them rendered silent. just
like Hopper is just like noticeably pissed that you're bringing this up.
Because even before that point, like he calls them. He has their number like written down in permanent ink here. It just says like, and you're a big teddy bear, but you have to act all tough because you don't have experience. Oh God, it's wonderful. Just both let's kind of shut up after they realize like, oh God, he's so right, but I didn't want to come out like this.
Just stay in the car, Freud.
This is great. Oh boy! So then we have some of my favorite stuff in the episode here at the carnival. So I love Alexi. I love what we do with Alexi here. So again, like Alexi and Marie, they've come a long way because he was really paranoid about him. They become buddies, making fun of Hopper and everything. They become buddy, and he takes him to the carnival. He plays some games. He wins Woody Woodpecker, which by the way is like the thing he's been watching the whole time. He thinks it's Looney Tunes, but he's just watching. He's watching Woody Woodpecker, having a good time. And he, of course, he wins the Woody Woodpecker. And of course, Grigori just shoots him right through the Woody. Yeah.
That's when he knows his name begins to nay. It's the B thing doesn't have.
Then we have
I guess I'd look out for characters that begin with A too.
Yeah. Going through the whole alphabet, I guess. I guess C's will be next season, maybe. Anyway, okay, let's see. So, Oh yes, right. So that, of course, one of my favorite bits. This to me is the most nostalgic thing I had in the whole thing, in the whole season. This is the most nostalgic tie for me because of my own carnival experiences.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. The carnival setup is absolutely Dragon for sure.
And I'm saying specifically one bit in the carnival section. Okay, this thing that took me so far back into my childhood. Like, oh my, I haven't seen one of these things in ages.
Okay, what?
The funhouse fight, the set piece.
Oh yeah, I love the funhouse fight. It's so well choreographed. Absolutely.
It's so on the line. Bear in mind, I didn't have one that was as elaborate as this, but I mean, like the whole thing where you go, it's the same idea. They have like these fun houses they kind of take on the road when they set up a carnival, and you walk through the thing, and sometimes a little horror related, sometimes it's not. And you just walk through the thing, you have like like the rooms full of all these little obstacles and everything, like and just the way and having a fight scene, and I think that oh my god blew me out of my socks. Like yes, that's awesome. And he's just like hitting with the sandbags and everything, and of course like we do a little homage to another, I believe it was in the 80s. Enter the Dragon with like kind of another classic.
Yeah.
Me personally, when I think of the Enter the Dragon fight, I'm thinking of Dark Knight Returns, but it all stems from Enter the Dragon. There's really cool fight scene between him and the Russians, including a little mini rematch between him and Grigori.
I also love the Gravitron fight as well.
Yes, oh yeah, that's a great one.
And also, I love the reaction that the Wheelers have is Hopper and Joyce are just like running out of there screaming. Oh wow, they make an odd couple, don't they?
You know what they say. There's someone for everyone.
Of course, then she sighs.
I got to admit that's the one moment with her where it's kind of played for laughs. I'm like, all right, if that is her character, then that is a good kind of punchline to it.
Yeah.
All
right. So then ultimately at the end of the episode, we have this big moment where, okay, our stories collide. Where then, and this is where, Tiki, this is the thing you've been talking about the whole time. This is where we have it's a little bit of exposition, but again, honestly, it's a little, I think we have a great punctuation to here. The idea is, 11, our stories all simultaneously, at least our stories collide, and they all officially collide at the very start of the next episode, but stories collide. 11 throws a car at some Russians, and then we have to explain, okay, why is it now 11 throwing cars at Russians? And they're all like, oh, guys, and basically this is where they have the big exposition. They're all kind of chiming in, like, oh, so that's Eric has no idea.
Okay, you know what, though? This, I think, was played really well because it is like them talking over each other. It's played really realistically. I don't know. I don't know what it is about that earlier scene, but that earlier scene just felt a little like maybe it's just because they were all like kind of politely taking their turn with their points. But I just felt like there was such an overwhelming like sense of relief in the moment that they're all okay that I just think it played out a lot better. I don't know.
Yep. Then we have the great button of the namesake of the episode here where 11 is down from the bite to her leg. So again, the bite of her leg.
God. Okay. Body horror 101, right?
That brings us to episode 8. Episode 8 starts off with this. Episode 8 is the Battle of Starcourt. So we have this harrowing parasite removal scene. You know me, I could barely watch this scene. God.
Oh yeah, I watch it. It's a tough one.
Yeah,
the knife being heated. That's the thing. Like, oh god, this is not.
Was I the only one who thought she was going to get amputated here?
I thought about it for a moment, but I didn't think they were going to go that far. For a moment, I thought, are they? And like, nah.
It would have been like an Evil Dead reference.
It would have been, but unless it's How to Train Your Dragon, you can't really amputate your young character's leg.
Yeah, I think the show could have gone that far. I don't know.
I mean, the show's pulled off a lot worse.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I guess that's fair. All right. Anyway, so harrowing scene, basically they cut into the leg, and here's the bit where it gets really interesting, where she uses her power to kind of sift through. I'm sorry, I was thinking about it's getting kind of creepy, but she uses her power to get the thing out of there. And of course, we have this grand entrance of Hopper here at the end of the cold open, where he just stomps on the escaping little.
That's great.
So now at that moment, that's really we start episode 8 off like, okay, now all of our stories collide here. Now we're all on the same page.
Satisfying. I will admit that.
Yep, and we have this really nice moment where Hopper gives 11 Mike the pep talk here. Basically, gives 11 the pep talk. Hey, I know you're going to get your full strength back because you always do because you're great. He just kind of gives I know you're gonna be fine here. We all have your back and everything. Of course, he even gives Mike the mini thumbs up from Poppy essentially.
Be careful.
Yeah, that's all he needs. Let's see. Let's kind of break down kind of our jobs here. So let's see. Hopper, Joyce, and Murray they go undercover with the infiltration. Basically, they're going to go undercover, infiltrate the. They have to get to the key so they can shut it down, so they can destroy and kind of save the day in the
It's
grand
basically
scheme of
like
things.
a Wookiee prisoner scene without a prisoner.
Pretty much. And then we, of course, this Hopper. Hopper has to quote the Tick. Hopper lacks finesse. But Murray's all about finesse, and Hopper just shoots them all. That's just how he does things. Then we get the beautiful bit where Hopper and Joyce they kind of agree to go on a date this time and they not stand each other up. 7 o'clock.
Okay, I got to tell you guys, especially with the goodbye scene that Joyce has with Will, I was expecting Joyce to go, not the other way around. We'll get there, but yeah.
All right, let's see. Okay, so Dustin essentially he's running point, and he comes across. Sorry. Okay. So anyway, so I'm sorry. So Dustin he runs point. He comes across the the code, the access code they need to get in there so they can kind of shut down the gate and the key and everything. And then the code is Planck's constant, which apparently Murray didn't know actually, but thankfully Dustin knows somebody who knows Planck's constant. Who is that person?
It's Susie.
Susie.
Oh man.
Susie Poo.
Susie. Yes.
All right. Guys,
be done.
the song. First of all, do you guys know what movie the song's from?
Never-ending story.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It'd be really weird if it wasn't from the Never-Ending Story, Tiki.
I'm just
It's kind of obvious.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
No. I'm just saying it'd be really hilarious if it was like an unrelated movie to Never-Ending Story, though.
From the Last Unicorn.
Yes.
All right. No, that question was dumb. I realize, anyways. Yeah. So, what do you guys think? I will admit that when it was going on, I was in the camp of like, what the fuck? This show is going there. But
I thought it was adorable.
I think the thing that saves it is the reactions from the characters. The characters are just as thrown off by it as we are.
And Hopper too.
Like it's kind of Dragon. That's one of the things I really love about Scott Pilgrim. Like that first scene, the first fight in Scott Pilgrim, where the guy like bursts through and he starts doing the Bollywood song, and Anna Kendrick is just like, what? Kind of had that sort of quality going on.
I don't know. For me, it was. I mean, it was fine. And again, I think on a rewatch, I think it holds up a little better because the first time I'm in shock, like the David Arbor.
I wasn't expecting it.
I'm like, what? But I did know something too on the rewatch. Just kind of looking at it, you're kind of entrenched in the first time around. But if they keep building up Susie with the Phoebe Cates comparison, I got to be honest. Looking at her, there's a little bit of a Phoebe Cates vibe to her, a little Phoebe Cates-esque. Seriously, if you think Gremlin's Phoebe Cates, looks a lot like her.
I thought that was it's like, oh, that's adorable.
Yeah. I did like Susie,
though. Just the body language and everything. Susie is just like, she almost feels like she was like made in a lab to be the perfect match for Dustin, and it's adorable.
Hey, the next season might be Weird Science.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, let's get some Downey Jr. in there too. While we're at it.
Downey Jr. He's gonna have a lot of free time on his hands these days because it's not like The Judge did very well at the box office.
I saw a really obscure Robert Downey Jr. movie recently, but you're gonna have to wait till a movie memoirs to figure that one.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, and Tiki, you're gonna really appreciate it too when I lay out the premise. Anyway, so sorry, getting back on point. So yes, okay. So another big plot point here. 11's powers are on the fritz. I love how we set this up. So her powers on the fritz, and we call back the old can thing. The first time she ever used the power, she crushed the can. And of course, here she's, again, the idea is like, okay, so she, again...
Maybe it's just the fact that New Coke is just so awesome that it's indestructible.
Yeah, Tiki, maybe that's it.
Done in by New Coke.
I mean, we all know that New Coke was the most successful product of all time.
There's a marketing campaign that can't miss. New Coke.
Did you guys know that New Coke is coming back? Like, It's kind of a weird coincidence.
No, Tiki. I don't. Tiki, assuming I'm correct in this, they brought it back specifically for Stranger Things.
Oh, for Stranger Things. Okay.
That's what I heard, at least. That's what it's like how they brought back. I think there was like a specific sort of when they brought.
I got it, guys. I really want to try it just for the gimmick factor.
That's the thing. They brought back some Eggos, like specifically in '80s, like the '80s box on the Eggos when they did when they did season 2 of Stranger Things.
You know what? The '80s box on the Eggos, actually having an iconically bad product of the '80s, that's great.
Yeah, but they did bring it back for this, though. So I mean, you can actually. I don't know. I assume they brought it for when the season came out. So if it hasn't out already, then it'll be coming out soon, I'd imagine.
It's pretty much like Coke taking it in stride.
I could have sworn I saw new Coke.
I'm kind of surprised that they never referenced Crystal Pepsi on this show.
Next season, you never know.
What if they get Brad Jones to cameo for the Crystal Pepsi thing?
I don't think they're going to be that hard up, Tiki.
I know. One can dream. Because Brad Jones, in my mind, is the spokesperson for Crystal Pepsi.
Good. Maybe he'll be like the assistant to Weird Al Yankovic, saying, "Hey, Weird Al, you want some Crystal Pepsi?" Okay. Anyway, getting back on point.
Crystal Pepsi.
In all seriousness, so
I'll go with Barcelona.
Seriously, I do love how we set up the 11's powers are on the Fritz, where again we're subverting something that we've done in the previous seasons, where it always boils down to 11 vanquishing the bad guy or like solving the problem with their powers, where we can't do that this season. I thought it was a really interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, she's facing like literally one of the most intimidating things we've seen on Stranger Things, like a giant mind flayer, man.
Okay, this thing it's got to be a reference to the T-Rex, right? I mean, there's a couple shots that are straight out of Jurassic Park here. Like when he first comes in and it's kind of like the same setup of the room and it's roaring. I mean, that very much felt like the end of Jurassic Park. The chase with the car where he's in the rear view mirror, like I feel like that's kind of a Jurassic Park pool. What do you guys think? I thought there was a bit of Jurassic Park in here.
Okay, look, now that you bring up the car thing, I kind of see it, but I gotta be honest, I didn't really see it when I first watched it.
I kind of noticed, I kind of thought it, kind of looking back, it kind of seems like noticing everything was vibrating when they realized he was crawling on top of the wall.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like there's a lot of visual pull there.
When you bring it up, yeah, I think it kind of tracks more. I mean, when I'm in it for the first time, I'm not, I'm thinking, I know it sounds really stupid, but part of me was thinking, I wasn't thinking the 90s film that was Jurassic Park, and I'm watching this. But again, in retrospect, I shouldn't just have been closed off to, it only has to be the 80s,
Right.
I mean, you might have a point.
I mean, it's in hindsight. It's in a hindsight kind of thing, of course, but
yeah.
But I mean, I'm saying it could be that I could just be like an amazing coincidence for all we know.
Yeah.
Like them just trying to build suspense and not necessarily like, oh, let's channel Jurassic. Let's channel. I mean, it fits in with their whole Spielberg reference, so why not?
Sure. Or you could just be reading into things. There's always that too. I've been there.
Very much a possibility.
Like I said, it fits in with the whole Spielberg homage.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does fit in the Spielberg in the DNA. So I don't know. Happy accident. Who knows? The world made it. Anyway, so the point is Lucas saves the day with the fireworks, kind of buying her some time, helping her out until the fireworks run out. We have this, let's see. Oh yes, we just kind of jump. We have really good editing here. We kind of jump between like the three situations going on here. It feels almost like kind of Return of the Jedi type stuff here. We have like kind of the three, action sequences going on. Well, kind of the three sequences going on because you have Luke and Vader. You got Luke and Vader. You got the Death Star. You got you have the Battle of Endor going on. So it's three things simultaneously. All right. We have Hopper kind of having having a really well lit rematch with the Gregorian. I got like a Raiders homage here, where like we have like they have this big basically the big machine going, almost like the helicopter blade, almost like the plane's propeller from Raiders, about destroying there. Of course, he kind of ends up getting the better Gregorian, kind of tosses him into the thing, gets chopped to pieces, which is horrific. It was very Raiders-esque.
But of course, that creates a literal barrier between him and Joyce with the lightning.
It does. So as that happens, we cut back to Billy having his big redemptive moment. So Billy has a redemptive moment here where he kind of comes to and he tries to stop the mind flares, which of course leads to his big sacrifice again. Billy, if only you changed your name to William, you'd be alive. See next season if they have a character where again like if they introduce a character named Robert or William, just assume that character is doomed for like a shorthand of Billy or Rob or Bobby. Anyway, so
names are there? There's Bridget.
Yep.
Brittany.
There's,
Brittany, yes.
Anyways.
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Sorry. So anyway, so Billy goes in for the sacrificial play. I like how Eleven and Billy they kind of bonded over kind of dead mothers for a moment there. Where it says, I saw your mother; she was pretty. And of course, 11 having lost her mother and kind of reunite with her mother through those visions. That was kind of nice.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Hopper's. Then we have Hopper's sacrifice, the more important sacrifice. Hopper's sacrifice, at least seeming. Well, we'll get to that when we get to speculation towards the end. But Hopper sacrificed to close the gate for.
This is beautiful, man. This is beautifully done.
It was, and again, he just scored. And why, Joyce? Why is it every time you date a man or you prepare to date a man, it leads to his doom?
She's a little cursed.
Yeah. Anyway, so Hopper, of course, he sacrifices himself to close the gate, and she kind of pulls the. It was a clever little solution, by the way. You like the two submarine key thing, where she's kind of tied something around it so she can do it on her own there. But again, she has to make a choice: close the thing, save the kids, or let Hopper go. She had to let Hopper go. It was sad. Yeah. And of course, after Hopper's dramatic sacrifice, which we'll get to when we get to it. So Hopper's sacrifice happens, and it is really tragic. And then we have then Dr. Owens and company, the military, the cavalry. They show up, but they were no help whatsoever. That kind of bothered me too. Like, really, Paul Reiser, he's going to show up in this thing, but he's just going to be show up at the very end.
Yeah, I kind of agree. That was felt a little, not warranted, really.
Do you think Joyce is responsible for them showing up late because she called back? Because Hopper was worried about that. Do you think Joyce inadvertently kind of?
Hopper was worried about that. Yeah, you're right.
Do you think Hopper was going to screwed over by Joyce's call at the end of the day?
Oh no!
Yeah, Joyce means well, but at the end of the day, she would have killed him.
She forgot she had two sons in the first season, so
everything I touch dies.
Oh, poor Joyce Byers. Oh man!
And I keep breaking my bones.
And
we have someone who's just like, I get to date Joyce Byers, and then meanwhile the Force ghosts of Bob and Hopper are like, don't go down that road, buddy. It's not good. You don't want to do it. It's not worth it.
And of course, Bob saying, "Oh, hey, Hopper, you want to play cards or something?" Hello, Bob. Anyway,
Murray's reaction is heartbreaking too. Like, where's Jim?
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's talk about the aftermath. So 3 months later, we have the news cover up where basically talking about the mall is kind of essentially has been blown up and all the conspiracy theories surrounding the mall. Of course, Hopper died in a fire, quote unquote.
And can we just tell out how impressive going back to the whole fight? Can we just how visually impressive the Mind Flayer was?
Oh yeah, thank you for absolutely. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that. It's
I already mentioned. I love how it's literally the silhouette from season 2. It's my favorite part of the design work on it. I thought it's great.
I mean, it very much feels like anything that would be in a modern mainstream CGI blockbuster. I mean, it really does. It's pretty impressive.
I mean, I know it
feels like it's all those people molded together. It feels like
and I noticed a couple big names, big special effects studios in the credits too. They really really went all out with how they were able to build this thing. They probably saved a lot of their budget for this episode.
You didn't notice if it was Blur or ILM on this, did you?
And I saw Crafty Apes among other things. They have very big, several other big names.
Sure, I'll take. I'll buy that.
I mean, Crafty Apes is the only one I remember, but I know they work on a lot of big scale projects.
Sure. All right. So in the aftermath, so it's 3 months later, and we kind of check in with everybody here. We're we have a family video here. Where again, it's kind of the quick stop video equivalent of Hawkins, I presume. Where we have
family video is an actual chain.
Yeah, it is Dragon. It is.
One does actually closed right near me.
Well, still, I mean, it's kind of like, I believe RTS was an actual real place too, so it's still kind of,
And Quick Stop is a real place too.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like they're both real. It's not too far off. It is kind of an equivalent for Hawkins, but
Yeah. Anyways.
Point being, sorry, the family video. So we got a family video, and Keith, or the guy who ran the arcade. Which, by the way, if you notice, the arcades, I believe it's the same arcade on the same kind of same shopping area, same strip mall.
I could swear I've seen this guy in other places too.
Oh yeah, he's been in. Oh yeah, he was in a series of unfortunate events. He played the guy, the man, the woman,
the person of indeterminate gender.
that guy. Yeah, well that person, yes. Anyway, so yes, this guy he gets around. He's been in other things too, but that's the one that kind of springs them. Especially it's another Netflix connect for him. But it's kind of funny though. It's given the fact that the arcade from last season presumably is on the same block again. It is exactly like Quick Stop and RST Video. They're on the same place, ran by the same people.
Yeah, right.
Hilarious. Anyway, so they go for the job interview there, and of course, Keith's a bit of a movie snob with Steve there, and just kind of judging him, of course, as Robin points out, hey, Steve, he's a chick magnet, ladies galore. They're just coming in to see him and see his fancy hair.
Take all of them.
Yep.
You need help.
Yep. Nancy's taken. Well, she doesn't say that, but he did have the hots for Nancy. All right. So Mike and 11, we have the I love you payoff, which is really nice. In fact, she heard him way back when. That was kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love you too, Mike.
Aw, young love. So 11 too. I love, and this is the bit was kind of foreshadowed at the start of the season here. It's on rewatch. It's like, oh man, it's a really nice payoff. Where 11 is adjusting to her lack of powers now. Where again, she was using for these mundane things with ease at the start of things, and now she can't even bring like a teddy bear, like a stuffed animal from the top shelf on her own with her powers.
I wonder if it was because of the parasite.
Really, at the very least,
that'd be my guess.
The question
yeah. I mean, she was pretty much fine. Like she was obviously able to get rid of the mind flayer, but then pretty much after they took the parasite out of her, it's like she pretty much lost her abilities.
Exactly. The question is it temporary or not?
Or is it linked to her mental state?
Exactly. Of course, I mean the loss of Hopper. If there's a link to it, like an emotional or a mental state, and that might be it too. Well, never mind. That can't be the case because she didn't have her powers before that. But never mind. Forget my theory. My theory's stupid. All right. So then we have the goodbyes here. We start the kind of the goodbyes. Basically, the idea is that the Byers clan are leaving town, which means it's Joyce, Will, Jonathan, and I do love this note, but I know it's kind of an obvious place to go to, but I really did appreciate that Joyce kind of took on, Hopper's surrogate daughter in 11, so again, kind of taking 11 with her. Mm-hmm. Or kind of made sense, a way of honoring Hopper. So they're all leaving town. Of course, means a lot of long distance relationships, a lot of kind of tearful goodbyes, and of course the big moment of the whole thing here, the letter.
Oh yeah,
tear. God. Bring on the tears.
Yeah, right. Really... I'm just like, come on, you can't do this right after Toy Story 4.
This was really a classy. Device here. How we kind of heard the letter, and I believe, from what I understand, the way they shot this, Millie Bobby Brown, she didn't want to read the letter or hear it, so basically they played the audio for her live on the set when she did this. It's like her actually reacting to her hearing this for the first time.
Oh man.
I think it shows. It's really it's nice.
It does, man. It's pretty devastating. It really is. Yeah. There's no other way to put it.
Nice to hear him for one last time, have it be essentially the last real dialogue. I know there's maybe a few lines after that, but it's like the last real dialogue.
Mm-hmm. That was upsetting.
Now here's where I think we pay. I'm sorry, go on.
And even the last line, and for God's sake, keep the door open 3 inches. Even that ends up being sad.
Yep. Essentially, what she's saying. Here's a little bit of the Back to the Future payoff, by the way, because essentially what he's saying before we get the 3 inches payoff is, before we get the 3 inches line, is that this man who got to experience fatherhood in a way he never imagined. Again, where again he had fatherhood kind of stripped away from, then he had it returned to him with 11. He's a guy who tried to move on from darkness, and he's a guy who's able to move on from his darkness and embrace happiness. And again, did it in an unconventional way he never would have expected it to go. And what he gets at in the letter is that he can't control time. He can't. He tried to stop her from growing up, but he can't. He can't influence that. In essence, again, a little bit of the time thing, where again you can't control time, like you do time travel. Again, it's kind of this fantasy concept for the movies. You can't really in life you can't control time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of a little reading into it, but anyway. So in the end of the day, and it's kind of fascinating too. You look at the grand scheme of the Hopper arc too. Is that his friends saved him from. He mentioned a cave in darkness, and it's kind of he was in a cave. He was in a cavernous location in season 2. He was buried. He was kind of buried alive in season 2, and this friend saved him from that. So I think in mentioning, he's always mentioned this cave in darkness and everything in this letter. I think he's a little bit of a nice kind of payoff and the kind of stuff we've seen him go throughout the 3 seasons. And just do the old chief a favor here. Just open the door 3 inches. Which I'm gonna make a leap here. I'm gonna make a leap that the 3 inches thing at the end of the day, and given what the post credit scene does, is symbolic of the gateway. It's symbolic of there's never an ending. It's symbolic of the doorway to someplace else. It's always a little open.
I never considered that, but yeah, that's a good pool, perhaps.
And of course, I love the last image of the season before the post-credit thing, where the last image of the season is Joyce's house, where it all started, where all this craziness started. It's empty.
The Christmas lights on the walls and everything like that.
Yeah, as Jonathan said, 17 years of my life packed up in one day.
Yep. The fitting final image, you gotta admit.
Joyce and the buyers finally moving on.
Yep. All right.
Just add the acting on all the kids' parts when they're giving their last goodbyes and hugging. I mean, just it's totally nonverbal, but you just feel the emotion there, man.
Oh yeah. And I guess that brings us to the big post-credit scene. Maybe a little bit of spec within this moment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, first of all,
apparently a lot of people didn't even know this was there until people said something. Because they've never done anything like a mid-credit scene before.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry, Tiki, you were about to say something.
Yeah, can we the American? I mean, it's got to be Hopper, right?
Well, I have a theory. Okay, I have a theory. I'm going to throw this at you. Because, of course, the 2 big things with the Russia thing, of course, is that somehow they have a Demogorgon. Or at least kind of if not a Demogorgon, it's a Demodog that can turn into a Demogorgon. They find a way of kind of having it.
Well, the closed captioning actually says Demogorgon roars.
Cool.
So according to the closed captioning, it is definitely a Demogorgon.
Yeah. It's like when it was crawling on all fours, it's like, wait, is that a Demodog? Then instead I was like, oh no, it's a Demogorgon.
The fact is, the Russians either stockpiled a few of them, or they found somehow they found a way to get some Demogorgons there, and they're feeding another Russian to a Demogorgon. Before that, so not the Americans. So of course, after Hopper's demise, and if you notice in that scene, I looked at it with a fine-tooth comb, guys. When that thing blows up, Hopper is not in that scene.
No, we see a couple Russian guards evaporate, but we do not see Hopper evaporate. As a matter
which implies that it's not looking good for Hopper, but we didn't see a body.
And we also see the goop left over from the Russian guards that evaporated, but there's nothing where Hopper was standing.
Precisely, because I looked with a fine-tooth comb in every position of that scene, because he's right up against the wall, and every way you look at it, no one's there, as far as we can see. And of course, it's implied with those Russians, Goner. But here's the thing: I have three ideas of who it might be. I know the instant go-to is Hopper, as we all want him to be alive, we all want him to come back, and of course, by all means. I think we'll all be satisfied that happened. But in case they don't, in case they want to subvert it, there's only 2 guesses I have beyond Hopper. One would be Murray, because it is 3 months later. I know we saw Murray leave the thing, but again, it's 3 months later. Perhaps, again, they saw him, they saw his face, and of course Murray had the connection to the Russians, and maybe they were feeling a little angry at him. I don't know, potentially Murray, but it's kind of a loose guess.
And not to mention he can actually speak Russian.
Exactly, might be a little bit of an asset. I don't know. But here's the big one. Okay, this is something they set up in season 2 that they didn't quite pay off, and something still kind of lingering in the air. And this would make a lot of sense for them, especially given the fact they have Demogorgons. Brennan. Oh, sorry, Brenner. Eleven's dad, the science, Matthew Modine.
I know. Yes. I mean, possibly. I don't know. I'm just getting such a strange sense that it's Hopper. I mean, I really can't see any other way.
Well, I mean, again, I'm saying Brenner would make sense in terms of like how they would have a Demogorgon and how they would have kind of had the idea for the thing in the first place, how they would have gotten wind of it. And of course,
Yeah.
Brenner was implied to he may or may not be alive at the end of season 2 because they were looking for Brenner. They couldn't quite get a beat on if he was dead or not because we saw him go down. We never saw the body.
Right.
I think smart money's on it being Hopper. I'm just saying if it's anyone else, the only other person I can think of who'd be important would be Brenner and maybe Murray, just given like the people who the Russians would have an interest in.
If anything, it's possible Brenner could be just working with the Russians.
Sure, but
instead of being their prisoner.
That is also possible. So I think smart money's on Hopper. So let's just.
I mean, who knows? That could be how they started the whole Upside Down project to begin with.
All right, so guys, any loose spec? Because I mean, just like broadly, what holiday do you think we're going to have next season? Because every season's kind of attached to a holiday in some way, shape, or form, or any.
Possibly.
I'm sorry.
Because Mike actually mentions Thanksgiving.
That they did, and I'm so glad you brought those. Thanksgiving was my first guess because I mentioned we'll see each other Thanksgiving and Christmas.
The first season was Christmas, right?
This season was Christmas. The second season was Halloween. This season was 4th of July.
The only thing technically, and again, I wish I could have gone back to really kind of affirm this or not, because again, it does take place during November. It ends at Christmas. That's Stranger. That's the first season. So I can't remember if we went over Thanksgiving or not. But again, it wasn't necessarily like sold on Thanksgiving. So I don't know. Basically, if it's not Thanksgiving, I have 2 other holiday guesses. Thanksgiving would be the one that they set up. It could be maybe Easter, in terms of like, hey, Hopper's kind of hidden away, kind of an Easter egg. Kind of a hunt for Hopper. And basically, I think whatever they're going to do with holiday-wise, I think the story of the next season, I think we can all agree is probably going to be our guys going to Russia to save Hopper, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, but here's the thematic thing that would probably, in terms of holiday, if it's not Thanksgiving, the only other holiday thing I could think of that would have actually Easter eggs Easter's more of a kind of like a fun guess, but Father's Day.
Yeah, I could see that.
And if we do the Brenner thing,
I mean, thematically, yes. I mean, the one thing I have with Father's Day is that it's not nearly as iconic of a holiday. Like, you can't do any of the. Like, that's the thing. Like, they've all like done posters. Like season 1, it was the Christmas lights. Season 2, it was them in the Ghostbusters costumes. Season 3, it's them on top of the hill with the fireworks. I imagine if they did Thanksgiving, it'd be them all around the Thanksgiving dinner table with a big turkey, kind of like Deadpool 2.
Yeah, like a Norman Rockwell style.
Right.
I've actually seen some fan art of that too, by the way. Just the Stranger Things cast around the Norman Rockwell, But real quick, okay, let me throw this at you, okay? From marketing standpoint, you do raise a point, but again, if they did Father's Day, okay, now Brenner with not standing, standing or not, it doesn't really matter. Point being, think about this: we spend all of Stranger Things primarily around the mother figures, predominantly. But again, like we touched on Mike's dad, and we touched on Lucas's dad. But we have like, ever explored Dustin or Steve or these other characters with the whole father angle, but more importantly, again, like Hopper being like, if Hopper's the big draw, like people are coming to see the next season for like Hopper, and of course, the whole fatherly angle. I don't know, I could see father. Smart money's on Thanksgiving, but if they were going to go for something thematic, Father's Day would be my second guess.
All right.
I have one last theory, and then by all means, we'll wrap up this puppy.
Okay.
I've been calling this for a while, and they still haven't done it. But we had like one little inkling this season that makes me think maybe we'll finally do this next season. Assuming, well, again, think smart money, we're going to get another season. But like Netflix, of course,
I heard that season 4 might be the last, though. I'm not sure where.
I know they said they go on.
They said at the very least 4 or 5.
They said they wanted to do 5, but of course the big ticking clock is before they grow up, and of course at some point they're going to be adults. I guess that would be the last season if they did it.
Right.
But anyway, point being, the one theory I
managed to do that quite well, balance the growing up thing quite well. So I imagine this will go down a similar path.
anyway, so the theory I've been thinking for a while now, of course, be able like Will's spider sense going on here. I think Will might have powers. I think if 11 loses her powers, I think Will's going to gain them.
I like that. I like that.
I mean, he
Will
does kind of
like
have he just kind of have the flare sense.
That's the thing. He has the flare sense. He spent a lot of time in the upside down. I mean, again, if he's kind of been purified of it. I mean, if anything, again, if let's say 11 doesn't have powers, at least not for the majority of next season, I think Will's going to develop them. That's been my guess for a while now. I'm still going to throw that out there. Okay, that's all I got. All right.
I'm going to throw one thing out there. I think Aliens is going to be the big 80s movie that we pull from.
Ooh.
We're going to have just a shit ton of demigorgons and demidogs.
Oh, I didn't think of that. It's not bad.
Aliens, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting.
All right. That's it. Okay. So final thoughts, Jacob, you start us out.
Again, like I said, I think this season, like at least I don't know if I'll say it surpassed them, but definitely near the end it did. But as a whole, I definitely say it definitely lives up to the high bar the previous season set up. And hopefully the next season doesn't take a couple of years to get out like this one did.
I mean, honestly, I don't mind because I prefer.
I mean,
it's quality. Anyway, sorry.
But as I was trying to say, what I was saying was, I mean, if it takes that long to make a good product, I mean, I'm obviously not going to complain. But it's more, like me wanting something sooner, and obviously, it's just me wanting me being selfish. If they can get it out soon, that'd be great. But if not, I mean, that'd be good if it gets a better product out. Like, I'm anxious to see where this series goes forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is a series that could go on for at least 2 more seasons. I mean, they probably have enough material to work with. So, I can't wait to see where the series goes from here. I mean, somehow off the top of the mind flare in the real world, and if they go up from there, we're gonna be in for one heck of a ride.
Yeah. Yeah, guys, I thought this was a very, very satisfying season based on the last 2 episodes. I mean, I think the last 2 episodes did, honestly, a ton to add value to the season. Not that the season was bad by any means at all. I mean, generally speaking, I think episode by episode, this season might be the. I think episode by episode, season 1 might still be the strongest, but this season's kind of right behind it. I think season two wasn't necessarily bad, but of course we had that really, really embarrassing thing with season 2 of that terrible, terrible episode that never gets referenced again in season 3. But we shall never speak of it again.
I think there's a reason they did 8 episodes, and I think that's the reason.
Right. But it's. I mean, I do think that season 3 is by far the most theatrical, the most intense for sure. Jacob, you kept saying on Facebook that you were on the edge of your seat when you were watching this, and I agree. I mean, it's it very much does go into overdrive with intensity.
It's an 8-hour 80s action thriller.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I mean, especially all that stuff at the end with the ball and the battle and everything, it's just awesome. It really is. Like that, I really do think episode 8 of this season is easily the high point of the series so far, easily. So yeah, I mean, did it drag a little bit in the middle episodes? Yeah, sure, maybe a little, but I mean, when the season ends on this big of a high note, I can pretty much forgive that pretty easily. All right, Dragon.
I'm sorry to get in there before we end here. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Day of the Dead have a very memorable kind of horrific scene in a mall?
Well, Day of the Dead is entirely set in a mall.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I wasn't crazy on that because there's like another. I want to make sure I wasn't thinking of a different movie. All right.
I'm pretty sure the whole movie, like from front to back.
Well, I know at least some of the most iconic, kills took place in a mall. I just want to make sure, okay, so the whole thing was in a mall. Okay, that's cool.
I'm pretty sure it's the entire movie.
I mean, I don't know if it's Yeah, there's pretty much one of those dead movies that pretty much does take place in a mall. I don't think the first one. I don't think Night of the Living Dead does.
No, it's not Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead is just a house, and
Is it
That's
Day
what
of
I
the
was
Dead?
thinking. That's what I was confusing
okay,
with Night
let's
of the
see.
Living Dead. All right.
Is it Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead?
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. I'm getting this wrong. Dawn of the Dead is the one in the mall, and then Day of the Dead actually takes place in a bunker. So that's where they connect the two, where it's like Dawn of the Dead is the mall, and then Day of the Dead is the bunker,
Right.
and obviously the bunker underneath the
Okay,
mall.
there we
That's
go.
the
Sorry,
big
that's what was kind of bugging me
yeah.
a little bit when we
Yeah.
kind of get wrapping up here. As this kind of occurred to me. Anyway, so my fellow, let's keep it simple. Look, in my opinion, I think we're getting more sophisticated and ambitious with our plotting, and if honestly in the future, if we can knead out some of the tropes in the story that we kind of had towards the start of this, I think we'd be in even better shape. At points, I think it keeps getting better. I think we're almost to the point where we're going to have a fully again, Stranger Things has never had quite a perfect season. It's had a season that keeps getting better and better. I think we're almost there. I think this season was very impressive, and it's getting more ambitious, and I love it. It was very solid. It was a fun season. I'm very satisfied with it. So yeah, very satisfied. Of course, David Harbour, he's wonderful. Just a lot of you had some comedy, you had a lot of heart. You had some thrilling action, and of course just some really eerie effects that are definitely kind of still kind of rattling around the old noodle. To keep it simple, but yeah, Stranger Things season 3 was I think a success. I'm hearing some people aren't necessarily as thrilled as maybe season 2, but you know what? I say give it
I mean,
time.
there's a lot of people that weren't happy with season 2, so I think it's a situation where you're never going to please
Exactly. You got it right, Tiki. You got it right on the head right there.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to make everybody happy. So I'd be shocked if we didn't get a season 4. I think the show's good enough it deserves, and people obviously.
This is Netflix's golden goose right now, man. Netflix. I think the biggest obstacle to this show being canceled isn't Netflix itself, but it's the Duffer Brothers. It's when the Duffer Brothers. I think this is definitely a show that's going to go out on its own terms.
Well, yeah, I think it's also a ticking clock of how long they can do it before the kids are just kind of before it kind of defeats the purpose of the show.
I mean, yes, but like I said, I don't think that's that much of an issue considering Potter and considering with it's like if they ever really need to, they could do a time jump.
Exactly. That's true. They're probably working with right now. Point being, so again, I'm satisfied with Stranger Things. I think it's still in the right hands creatively, and I'm excited to see season 4. Fingers crossed.
All right.
Well,
guys, thank you so much for watching, and have a good night. Happy late 4th of July. Scoops ahoy.
Lego my ego.
Scoops ahoy. Friends don't lie.
No Coke.
God damn it, my agent told me Hellboy would be big!